Hello, everybody. How is it going? It is Wednesday evening, which is not a Tuesday, but that's the way it goes. I hope you're all having a great Wednesday.
Yep.
We're fixing to get started here. Did I unmute myself? I did. Okay, good.
Yep,
Good,
I heard
good,
you.
Good. Well, I meant.
Well, I heard you on the YouTube too.
Oh, very clever, Matt.
Yes.
How's it going, Zendrix? Aaron, I hope you're both doing very well. Sorry for the 2 late weeks in a row, but we're here now,
Yep.
and we're gonna do this.
Seems like it's the same illness that
Yeah.
has made us late 2 weeks in a row, which seems improbable, but
It just hates you.
yeah.
We're gonna wait a couple more minutes before we started because I think I set the Patreon notification to go out in about a minute. So
Okay.
we're just gonna kill some time before we start. So we let that go out and let some people in. It's gonna be a good episode this week. I think it's gonna be a fingers crossed shorter episode this week. What's up, Prof? I hope it's good. Well, it's not going to be shorter because we have March's Madness stuff to do, but these chapters were definitely a lot less dense than some of the ones you've been dealing with.
Huh.
Yeah, I always set it. They let you schedule it, and it goes off whenever you want it to. Yeah, it's fun. We're not going to go over every one of the results because that's going to take forever. But we are going to go over all the round two matchups.
Check.
Yeah. Oh, you're just testing your recording. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I just saw the email go out. Hooray.
Okay.
What's up, Goldfish Bowl?
Test.
What's up, Raphael? Or Raph. I'm going to call you Raph because I watch Ninja Turtles. Why is your... I hate you. So, your stupid Skype thing, like the overlay that goes in front of your thing is just not going. There it goes. It went away. Good.
Why can't I hear?
Uh-oh. What can't you hear?
I can't hear my own recording. I can't hear my own recording. I mean, I can see it. I don't know if this is going to matter, is the thing. Like, I can see a waveform, but when I stop and then hit play, I don't actually hear anything.
And check the settings and see where it's outputting to. It might just be...
yeah, that's probably it.
Just Diago is crying over the death of Marquis. Yeah. There was some surprises in that first round. Not too many to me, but oh, now it's doing...
Okay, fixed.
Cool. Got it worked out.
Yep.
Sweet. That turtle has been the bane of my existence. Yeah, it would suck to have that name. I'm sorry.
But Raph is the cool one.
Yeah, but Raph is cool but rude. Which one were you, Matt?
Which one was I?
When you played Ninja Turtles, because I know you played Ninja Turtles.
I probably wanted to beat Leonardo.
I was always Leonardo too. I liked to be the leadery one.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you can't. It's me. I called it.
I'll be the robot Leonardo then.
And Raph is clearly Raph. So you've got Donatello or Michelangelo.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll be Donatello.
Yeah. Good, because he's the nerd. Enjoy being the nerd, Matt.
This kind of seems obvious.
All right. I think we're ready to get started.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, AA Ron. I'm clicking record if you're ready. I think we're all good to go. Are you good to go?
Yep, recording now.
Me too. Check. All right, I need to move this a little closer to my face. There we go. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Hope you guys enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you after. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Ainz, and as always, this is my co-host, Zwei.
This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of eggs, and alien-based death eggs as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week, we're continuing Arc 12 Heavens with chapters 12.5 and 12.6. Victoria executes Operation Bitch Slap Rain till he wakes up, and then uses the slightly enraged Cape to boil Cradle's egg in guilt and regret. I see no flaws in this plan at all. Matt, what did you think of these two chapters?
Well, this is the egg-centric content that I come to this story for, as you know. Really good stuff. And, you know, we've got 2 Victoria chapters. We've been having so many interludes lately, which it's really kind of, I always see interludes as a treat, but yeah. It's funny that I sort of see the opportunity to just do 2 Victoria chapters as almost a different kind of treat, because it's more of like a focus on just the through line of what's going on with Victoria.
Yeah, I mean, the interludes are always kind of by their very nature more dense chapters. So our episodes have been creeping up in length because of it, because we've been doing a lot of interludes and they've been important interludes. So I am, just like you, excited to just do 2, standard Victoria chapters. There's a little bit of fighting. There's a lot of character work going on here. There's a lot of good stuff, but it just doesn't seem like it's quite as dense. So maybe we get to focus on some of the writing more than just talking about the stuff that happens. And I'm looking forward to that conversation a lot.
Me too. All right, some announcements. Yeah, so Scott, what's going on with your March Madness tournament?
Yes, March's Madness is now in round 2. We've gotten through the first 64 of our characters. Those were eliminated. 32 of them are dead. Rest in peace, all those sweet, sweet people. We only have 32 left, so we're in round 2 right now. We are going to be covering the results of round 1 as well as all the round 2 picks at the end of the show. But we wanted to remind you guys that voting for round 2 is open right now, so you can head on over to doofmedia.com/March Madness and vote for the round 2 picks. That'll be open until this Sunday at about midnight Eastern time. So go vote in those, and we'll keep covering this as we go. The other thing we said, there's a way to leave comments on the polls, and when we go through the results of this round next week, we'll read some of the people's comments that they left as they were trying to decide between some of these characters, because it's getting harder, Matt, and people are struggling with this more, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to comment on the things that we're forcing them to vote on. So go do that.
Yeah. By the way, it's not who would win unless you want it to be. Right. It's like, obviously Contessa just wins the whole thing if it's if it's a who would win. Anyway, I wanted to remind everyone to go check out Deep Impact if you haven't yet, and if you haven't read Pact, then go read Pact, obviously. And if you're not sure about those, then maybe listen to an episode of Deep Impact, and then you'll say, that sounds really interesting. I'll go read Pact now and catch up, and then you'll be hooked. Yeah, that's how it works.
I caught up. Well, I didn't catch up because I'm not. But I've read through about an arc and a half of Pact, and I caught up on all the podcast episodes today, and it's really enjoyable. And they do it in like they're only doing a chapter at a time, so it's like half-hour chunks. So it's not these long marathon episodes that we have. It's just little half-hour chunks of episodes, and it's kind of easy to just set aside a little bit of time to do one at a time and catch up like I did. So yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I'm enjoying the book, and we want you guys. Our buddies are doing some great work, and we want you to check that out.
Yeah, you're right. Much more disciplined in terms of time than those We've Got Ward guys.
How do they do that?
I don't know. We should ask them. All right. Let's get into 12.5. All right. And we return to Victoria, re-witnessing several of the scenes that we observed via her shard in the previous interlude. She inwardly seethes and imagines tearing down the building on top of the enemies within, perhaps connecting with the idea that she stands on a ledge at risk of becoming a tyrant.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's part of what led the shard to going down that point of view. And that's, I think, one of the things I want to focus on here at the very beginning of this chapter is because from the start of this section until pretty far into like almost a fourth of this chapter, maybe even more, we're just seeing the opening part of 12.all play through, but this time from Victoria's point of view, right?
Yeah.
So basically up until the point where Victoria says, I have a plan, and points at Chastity, that we've all seen this before in the last chapter. And I think it's pretty clever because I think this allows us to like very clearly and concisely draw a line between the parts of Victoria that the shard is aware of or paying attention to, and the parts of Victoria that the shard is not as paying as much attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a clever device to kind of to make that very clear.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I almost read it as like she's having a lot of her own thoughts, and then she's having conversations with people, and the shard is sort of passively aware of what's happening, but not really paying a ton of attention, and then it's going off on its own little philosophical ruminations in a very Victoria way. Which is just even more delightful in retrospect.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole conversation that she has with Sveta in this chapter that the shard didn't make any note of at all, because it was completely unconcerned with any of that going on. But yeah, we talked last week about how being with Victoria might have humanized the shard a little bit, and I still definitely think that's true, especially as compared to what we saw in March's shard. But humanized doesn't mean human, right? And there's one of the things we see right away here is Victoria is frustrated. She's angry. She's talking about destroying things. Like she wants to rip through the building and just destroy the egg. And that anger was not translated by the shard, right, at all. Like we felt no intensity of emotion like that from the shard's point of view that we see from Victoria here. So while it is in tune with her thoughts, it is either unable to or unconcerned with like some of her emotional resonance here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but I think we do see parts, like, I think, like, there are parts here when she's talking about, like, wanting to destroy it, when she's talking about, she says she wants to take the egg he'd made to be uncrackable and take it apart, figure it out how to unravel the riddle. There's parts of these moments that you can almost see where the shard translated it into her, like, her general, like, inquisitiveness and her dedication, right? Like those are the two things it mentioned about her, that no matter the label, these are two things that Victoria's about. And in the very part of this chapter, we're having her go through this kind of angry rant where she's like, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this. I wish I could just crawl into a ball and cry. But I can't do any of that. I have to, like, and that's, it's not like the shard was not in tune or not paying attention to that thought process, but it still got to kind of the same place where it's talking about the two traits that define her more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me of we were talking about this before, J Maniac's interpretation of the shards as the reader, and how like we're kind of like the protagonist sort of becomes yours, right? Like that's our Victoria. That's our Victoria. She's totally indefatigable. Right. And we're proud of her, like we know she's going to take a minute. She's going to be rocked by the horror of what she's seeing, but then she's going to rally and she's not going to be swayed from her course. And we love that about her. And then here we have her shard thinking those same things. So.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the J Maniac's video before on the show, right?
I think so.
I think we have. Yeah.
If not, then check out J Maniac's videos about metatextual elements in parahumans.
The more I read this book, the better I like that interpretation of the story. And I don't think it like, I don't necessarily think this is the intended read of the story, but I don't really care like intended or not. Like I think it just, it slots in perfectly. And like, especially the more we sit with the shards and more we see, like, it's like reading over 12.all again last week, really, like, I love it. It's so cool. It's so interesting. It's a fun, really interesting way to look at the story. And again, it is talking about the power of storytelling and the purpose of storytelling in a way that I like, because I like those things. So whenever there's an interpretation that talks about, hey, storytelling matters, I tend to gravitate toward those interpretations. So
yeah, me too.
Anyway, completely distracted, but I definitely was thinking that as I read through these chapters.
Yeah. So, faced with the egg-shaped cocoon of preserved flesh holding Cradle, her mind goes through possible solutions, biology powers, considering Chris, and then inevitably skipping off the consideration of her sister. A bit later, she'll think of a list of other capes like Blasto, Rottenfanger, Jerky Meat, Jamestowner as being non-options.
Yeah, and it's interesting here that she's kind of like combining the two things she's primarily worried about right now, right? Like she's looking at the egg and she wants a solution to that, but also in the back of her mind, she's thinking about Sveta and her problem and how she has to solve her problem. And that's actually when she lists those 4 capes, she's thinking about, could they make a body for her? She still calls them non-solutions, but I really like this. Like there's this part that I love. She says, as you're talking about, like she skips through her sister, right? And she gets through this kind of circular thought process in her head, right? Where it ends up back to her sister, and she kind of chastises herself about getting in that circular view process. But she goes back to that non-solution that was my sister. And I think there's a little bit of reading in there. I think that like there's this line earlier, a couple sentences earlier that says, my thoughts briefly settled on Chris, Labrat. They touched on other alternatives. And she never goes into what those other alternatives are. But I think the implication there is that she actually is thinking about her sister there, because then the later line is back to the non-solution that was my sister. Mm-hmm. So it's like you kind of see her thought process of skipping over Amy, but then that avoidance technique failing and actually landing on her.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and all the problems she's facing, many of the problems she's facing are ones that Amy is like most capable of solving of anyone in the world.
Right.
But she's just, and it, like now at least we're at a part in her character arc where she's able to think about that for a second before rejecting it instead of just failing to think about it at all.
Yeah, but still not an option.
Yeah, still not an option, right? We'll see how long it remains not an option when other people realize that it's an option. Yeah,
but there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about in this moment of her chastising herself for this kind of circular spiral of getting caught in thoughts. She talks about how she recalls that she used to do this a lot, when she was starting out, and that there was a dream from her very early days of caping that she would just have again and again and again. It says, trying to save someone who'd fallen from a high place. I'd fly after, grab their hand, only to find it so slick with blood that it slipped out like a wet bar of soap. And the person would fall, and she would fail to catch them, and then this dream would repeat over and over and over again. And I love this, because dreams in stories, like, to me, are always like a sign of, whenever I see a dream in a story, I'm like, pay attention to this. This is important, because dreams in real life are sometimes just nonsense, right? We can't control what we dream about, and sometimes it's just stupid nonsense that doesn't matter. But in stories, they matter.
Yeah, normally. Right.
I mean,
right. Yeah, the author chose to put it in there.
Right.
So, yeah.
A story is already a place in which everything in the world matters in some extent, because it's all part of constructing the story. But then you put a dream in the story, and the dream matters as well, but it doesn't have to play by all the logic rules of the world. You can do whatever with it. You can show whatever. You don't have to construct any kind of imagery around the logical rules of the world. You can just do whatever you want. So it has power. It has power to convey messages there. And I think in that line of thinking, I always jump into the dreams that characters have and really want to inspect them. And I did that here, and I don't even know how much this matters to the overall direction of the story right now, but I just thought it was really interesting and worth examining a bit.
Sure, absolutely.
So on the very surface level of this dream, we see here Victoria's dreaming about her failure, dreaming about her perceived failure to save someone. Again and again and again, she's swooping down, she's trying to save them, and she fails. The blood is coating their hand, it makes her unable to get a grip, and they slip and fall. Now, you could say that the imagery of blood, these people are covered in blood, is her failure on a larger scale, right? Because she's failing, there's blood everywhere, and that's only compounding her failures, and it's just like failure everywhere and everything. But, Matt, blood on hands is a very coded image in life, not even storytelling. It's expanded into life, right? Like we use the idiom, there's blood on my hands, all the time. And in that vein of thinking, I think this gets even more interesting because it's not Victoria's hands that have blood on them, right? You would think if she's looking at this dream as something of like her own personal guilt, right? This is, I'm guilty. I feel like I'm failing to save these people. You would think the normal way to convey that image would be there's blood on her hands. She's failed these people. It's not what it is, though. So it's almost as if saying, while Victoria is failing to save these people, yes, they're all guilty of something. Is it their own blood on their hands? Is it other people's blood on their hands? Is Victoria so ineffective at saving the world because each and every person she's trying to save is responsible for hurting another person? Can a world in which everyone is guilty, which everyone has blood on their hands, even be saved? And I love this as like a little encapsulation of Victoria at the time, but maybe just of Victoria in general, right? Of her view of this whole thing.
I mean, it's very interesting because, like, on a symbolic, story level, Amy is a person who has red on her hands perpetually because she's tattooed red on her hands, and so Amy, like, figuratively has blood on her hands at all times. But that's not what it meant in the dream because that happened after the dream. But this is a story, so things can mean things that don't necessarily make sense, right?
Right.
But it's all, that's really interesting, and I like that interpretation that it's not just, it's not just I tried to save them and they fell out of my hands. It's I tried to save them and their hands were too slick with blood, and in a sense, she's kind of trying to save her team, right? Like that was her mission from the beginning, was I need to help these guys, Jessica. And many people in her team can be said to have blood on their hands, or at least be guilty of something bad, even if they didn't hurt anyone specifically. And can she save them? Are their hands too slick with the blood of what they've done that she can't actually save them?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think you're absolutely right, and that actually makes me happy because it means that I didn't just completely waste my time diving down this rabbit hole of exploring this one sentence of dream that we have here, because I think that does tie into how Victoria views what she's trying to do and her existence and her general frustration with the world, right? She is trying to save the world, and she's so frustrated that the world stops itself from being saved. And I think that image is there in that dream.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm glad you pulled that out, because I didn't take it on anything other than it says something about her character, but it says quite a lot, actually. I think if you draw it out.
I think it's just general rule when you're reading a book. If dream happens, perk up your ears a little bit, or your eyes, I guess. Pay attention a little bit more, because I think the authors like to do things with those dreams, and even if they're not doing it, even if that was not the intended explanation of the dream, right? I still think it can say something, right? And I think it's because of that lack of logical rules that you need. It's like a free reign within a constructed story.
Yeah, I think you're right. So now she talks to Sveta, and they agree that there isn't an obvious solution to this problem that they're facing with the egg. And she thinks about how well this situation aligns with basically what she missed out on back when the Slaughterhouse Nine were ravaging Rockton Bay, specifically in the sense of the enemy's willingness and even eagerness to do harm and to be monstrous.
Yeah, and I really love this because so much of this chapter, and I think indeed this entire arc, is about what can we do? We finished off the last arc with this decision seemingly made. Victoria made up her mind. She decided, okay, we're going to kill Cradle, we're going to kill March, and if anyone that assists them that gets in our way, we're going to kill them too. But that doesn't make it easy, right? You've made that choice, you've made that decision, but that doesn't mean like everything's just easy now. Because now what? Now what do we do when innocent people are involved? Like, and I don't like. There's hundreds of soldiers in this compound now, and yes, not all of them are innocent, but some of them are less guilty than Cradle and Love Lost and March are, right? So like, do we just kill all these people? Is that like we've decided we're going to kill anyone that's allied with them? We can just get to kill all of these people now? Can we kill all these people? How do we win when we're fighting against a force that is able to be this brutal? And this is when I get back on my Lord of the Rings quoting, Matt, where I have to quote Lord of the Rings every one of these episodes. But like,
yes,
I'm reminded of the Theoden line where he says, "What can men do against such reckless hate?" Right? And that's kind of the thing that they're stuck with here is like, how do we win in a way that doesn't make us completely lose ourselves in a situation like this? It doesn't have an easy answer. There's no Gandalf coming to save them to crest the ridge and charge down and save them all, right? Like, you're stuck here with your tough choices and your difficult situations, and what are you gonna do? And I love it because in this moment, Victoria is like, this reminds me of the Slaughterhouse-9, and I was so mad and I felt so guilty that I couldn't have been there to see that fight to the end. And then she says, well, wish fucking granted, Victoria. So it's a sign like I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have been helping and fighting and doing all this stuff. It's like, well, you're here now and you're realizing how fucking difficult this is because none of it's easy. None of it.
Yeah, right. It's almost like she's never quite faced up to, like, she's always wished, you know, she spent all that time in the hospital. She has always wished that she could help, specifically help fight against the monsters. And now she's in one of these situations where it's like, there's the monster right there. And I don't know if you've actually considered how this would feel in this moment, Victoria. And it's hard. It's bad. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we talked about how Victoria is very much the type of person that she feels most comfortable when she has a clearly bad guy in front of her to punch, right? Like it's when things are the least gray, when it's obvious, like I good guy, that bad guy, punch them really hard and to win. And she's in a situation where in theory, it's never been clear, right? Cradle, clearly monster, clearly bad guy, clearly guy that we probably need to kill. And yet, even in that moment, you're not going to get that easiness. You're not going to get those easy decisions. You're like, it's complicated. All this stuff is complicated.
Yeah. You know, I can't help but think about how Cradle is not similar to the Slaughterhouse-9 because, yeah, making a sphere out of people is something that Bonesaw might do. But she would be like laughing and like talking about how clever an idea it was and how artistic it was. And it would be fucked up in that specific way. Whereas Cradle is basically just like, well, this solves the immediate problem that I have. And yeah, he wants to hurt the people who he's doing it to, I think. But I'm not saying one of those approaches is better than the other. I'm just distinguishing that they're two different brands of being a monster.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's less looking at. I think she's more looking at like the result of their monstrosity and not the underlying reason or enjoyment of the monstrosity. But I get what you're saying.
No, I think you're exactly right. And the fact is that when you're looking at an egg made out of human flesh, out of living human flesh, you're not thinking about like the motivations of the person necessarily. You're just like, yep, that's not going to be allowed.
Yeah, whether or not Cradle is getting any kind of enjoyment or glee from the thing he's done doesn't matter in the moment, right? It's we have to stop this person and this Bonesaw person. Ugh, yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
So Victoria returns to the heroes and they discuss strategy. There's an interesting discussion of the Russian system of organizing squads of soldiers around capes, with Mark providing a lot of commentary because he had a friend who was one such Cape soldier, and then Victoria providing the normal amount of knowledge gleaned from research that we count on from her.
Yeah, and I love that interaction, that kind of dynamic, right? Because Victoria is giving the book knowledge, textbook understanding, and Mark is filling in like the color. He's personifying these people. These are human beings, right? And they're human beings that happen to be on the other side of our heroes right now. And we're kind of understanding how they operate as a group through Victoria's knowledge, but I think Mark's knowledge helps define who they are and maybe why they are the way they are, and maybe talks about how like the way that the group is structured, that there's not like that they are soldiers and not every single person is necessarily completely bought into the thing they're doing or was even able to agree or disagree with the person that they're working for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all gives color to this group that they're about to go up against, and
Right.
kind of makes you understand why our characters would be super resistant to just murder them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I especially love this part where they talk about, you know, like sometimes the group of people that surround the Cape feed into kind of their pathology in a way that makes them even worse.
Yeah.
It's like not only do you get the standard package of capes coming along with everything that's wrong with them, but they come with their own group of enablers there. That just like make everything worse for them. And like I can see pros and cons to that actually, like from a powers point of view. But yeah, definitely something to think about in the combat aspect of things.
I feel like from a powers point of view, it's all cons.
Well, I guess
like for the survival of the species.
It's all everything about powers is a con, right? I was more thinking specifically like people who are more aligned with their shard tend to be stronger, and if you're surrounded with a lot of people who are going to like push you to your worst all the time, then you might that might make you functionally stronger, but
Sure.
you know, also in kind of a brittle way where you're going to go crazy and kill everybody eventually. So yeah,
like for example, if some guy like comes up and just like shoots energy beams of emotion at you, you might just like shove a drill into your coworker.
That
kind of stuff,
things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of discussion of the specific capes who are present, who they suspect are present, and they're people we know very little about. So basically, what this part of the text is doing is it's priming us to understand what the team is going up against. Like specifically, there's a cape called Macade. I don't know how you say that actually. I don't know if that's an actual word. Maybe you should have looked that up. Who has a centipede thing, and they're apparently quite young. So like these little details are being fed to us. And there's also Barfbat, who we remember from the Citrine interlude.
Yeah, a Macade is like a Japanese centipede. So
cool.
Gotcha. There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think this is important. Like we're going to talk about next chapter about how well Wildbow does in setting the stage and getting us to understand each and every one of these characters in a scenario that is a lot of people. Right? We're about to like the next chapter has a lot of different people, a lot of different things going on, and the fact that we spend time defining who some of these people are ends up being really important. But more on that next chapter.
Yeah,
but
so I guess if it's probably Mukade if it's Japanese.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Anyway, yeah.
So there is a moment here that I think is worth talking about for a bit, Matt. This is kind of a reaction to the Parahumans subreddit and the community. There's a bit here where as they're trying to talk, they're looking at different capes and they're identifying them based on their costumes. And Rachel points out that sometimes people switch costumes. Take the guy you like least and make him wear the costume instead. He'll draw attention. And several people in the community have looked at this and looked at the fact that Rachel does have a pretty close friendship with Vista. And this moment happening in the chapter after Vista had died, and they're using this as evidence that's saying, maybe we're like subtly setting up this fact that Vista wasn't in the Vista costume, and that was somebody else that died, and it wasn't her that March killed. Which, like, that would mean that Vista was also in the city and then like watched, and like the second her clone or her distraction friend got stabbed, she like took her power down.
Yeah, I mean the group of people who Rachel fought who used that trick in the past included Vista,
right?
So that is a plausible theory.
Yeah. Well,
no, I hadn't heard this before.
I don't like it. This is dead, guys. This is dead. I'm sorry.
I don't know, Scott. Now I have a glimmer of hope.
See, that's why people have glommed onto this thing, because that's what they want. But look, here's what I find more interesting about it, though. You are right that Rachel knows that Vista is part of the group that has used this before. And what I think is more likely is Rachel is processing the fact that Vista might be dead, right? They watched on TV as the city unfolded. Thus, everyone jumped to the conclusion that Vista was probably dead. She knows Vista might be dead, and perhaps in her head, she's working through excuses for why she might not be dead, right? Like she's trying to, well, maybe they did something like this. Like, we're trying to come up with excuses for why this character we cared about isn't dead. Maybe that was on her mind too. And then so they're talking about capes and they're trying to match people by capes. And there's this thing that's on Rachel's mind, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I know about this thing that I know some other capes did where they switch costumes." There's no textual support for that at all. I just think it's interesting that people glommed onto this thing, and then you could kind of warp it to where those people are right, except for the part where Vista's definitely dead.
I'm so glad Vista's not dead.
No, Matt.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks
Matt.
for letting me know.
No.
I'm going to move on from here. Happy. I'm happy now. Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like that was Rachel's contribution too, because like it's totally a thing that she would add to that conversation, even if it weren't for the Vista hypothesis.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, there's this interesting paragraph where Victoria thinks that she might know what the long-term goal of the villains is. And I'm going to read the paragraph. So it says, "I had a bad feeling that I knew what their long-term was. I might not have connected to it if I hadn't seen Ashley and the Harbingers, or if thoughts of Bonesaw and some of the other sketchy biomanipulators hadn't been so close to the surface of my thoughts with Sveta's issue." So like when I first read this paragraph, my mind immediately went to Amy. Like, these are all sort of concepts that circle around Amy. And then the implication being that the villains are going to want to capture or corner or co-opt Amy somehow. But on a reread, I'm less sure that it's that specifically, and I have some other ideas, I guess. But what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's too crazy that your mind went there, because Victoria is a very Amy-centric person. So thinking about a plan involving biomanipulation going to Amy in her head is not too crazy of a thing to think about. But let's try to break it down and see if we can come to a conclusion here. And I don't know if I'm like have any kind of real answers, but let's look at it, because she says the two things that make her develop what this long-term feeling is. The first one is Ashley and the Harbingers. So clones, right? Powered, cloned people. But maybe there's something more specifically here, because it's not just the Harbingers, it's Ashley and the Harbingers. So maybe she's talking or thinking about how Ashley interacted with them. So like we talked a lot about this familial bond that we saw last week and the week before between these guys and why they're kind of grouped that way. So maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know. And maybe that points toward Amy, right? Because she's got like familial bonds on the mind while also thinking about biotinkers. But then also the fact that thinking about Sveta's problem makes her thinking about Bonesaw specifically, and then all the other sketchy biomanipulators. So those two things, I don't know if that actually helped us clear anything up.
Well, I mean, what it pops back into my mind is basically things that Victoria hasn't witnessed, but we have, like Bonesaw saying to Amy, like, "Hey, we could stitch together 100 capes and make our own like Endbringer monster with 100
Right.
powers and kill an Endbringer." And then people would be like, "Well, now what?" And that has always been something that has been like feasible in this setting, right?
Right.
Like, and that's even sort of what Teacher was hinting at the end of Worm, was being like, we can leverage the capabilities that we have to sort of rebuild something like what Scion was, except under our control. And that's all of this sort of taken together. You know, you have the capability to clone, which means you can resurrect dead powers. You have the capability to mash together multiple powers into one person, which Bonesaw has done already, even without Amy.
Yeah.
You have the capacity to change powers. Like if you have all these resources under your control, you could do whatever, right? You could like do whatever from the perspective of like rebuilding Shard Network, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
And so like biomanipulators are the pathway to doing that, right? Because there's no such thing as like a shard manipulator, but the biomanipulators can basically do those things anyway.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things about this whole thing is the question of what are the clones in relation to shards, right? Like, are the two Ashleys operating from the same shard? Like, how did that work? You know, like how did when a clone of someone was made, how did that work on the shard side of things? And like, are all the Harbingers 5 separate shards, or just all part of the same shard, and that's its own kind of mini shard network through the boys themselves? Like that's a big mystery and something we don't know. So, I mean, that seems like an interesting examination of this whole thing too, where we were talking about this idea of network, of community, of the shards wanting to be part of this big overarching network that's gone. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about these things that we don't quite know the answers for yet. And it certainly makes your mind think about the horrible possibilities.
Yep. I mean, I always assumed they were all tapping into the same shard, but
I think that's the most logical, right?
Yeah, I mean that's also why we see like identical twins have almost exactly the same power usually, because
Right.
it's like a one shard just being like, all right, we can't keep track of this, so you both get the same power, which
Right.
is me. Yeah.
Yeah. But in that frame of reference, what is Capricorn? Are those two different shards? Presumably, they're two different powers.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, it might be this. It might be just matter generation, except with two different manifestations from the same shard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good question, though. I'm pretty curious to learn whether Capricorn is actually one shard or two, because it's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so let's move on. So finally, Victoria points at the smallest person present, Chastity. She wants to use Chastity to wake up Rain from his shard sleep.
Yeah, and we finally get back to the part where we left Victoria's shard off in the last chapter, and we get told that instead of charging right in, powers blazing, Victoria wants to once again use the most subtle powers they have available. And because that involves Rain waking up, we now assume that his emotional power seems to be the one that she's primarily thinking of, which of course we learn turns out to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I like how the chapter actually kind of like slow plays what she's planning on doing. That's fun. So Victoria heads back to where they have Rain tucked away, and she has to confront Blue Stocking and the rest of the contingent, who scared off Cassie and the dog carrying Rain. As she leaves this confrontation, they inform her that Harbinger took Contender's eyes with his marble.
So there's the answer to last week's mystery.
Yep.
It was Contender, not Paris, who was hit in the eyes. And I think Contender has like a gas mask over his face or something. I'm not sure exactly, but they later described that there's like wiring and stuff mixed in there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like a consequence of, like, was it some kind of tinker ball that the Harbinger shot, or was it just a marble?
Yeah.
Wasn't entirely sure. Or not a marble, but like one of those heavy steel pellets that you buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's wonderfully horrifying. It's awesome.
And Victoria describes it as almost gentler than she expected, and then wonders if this is the full amount of what they meant by fate worse than death.
Yeah.
And then Blue Stocking tells them if they don't get him medical attention too soon, he'll bleed out or the damage will get permanent. And since the portal is locked down, they're stuck. They can't get him medical attention. And Victoria basically shrugs this off, right?
Yeah.
She says, if his injuries are permanent, if we take too long and his injuries become permanent, it's their fault, not ours. And while sure, that kind of like, I mean, like it I know, like, I don't think these are good people. They're not, like, I don't like them very much at all. But this idea of this person needs medical attention and I'm going to say no, not right now, is just a little unsettling with me.
Yeah. Honestly, Contender's one of the ones where I'm least surprised, because he was part of the group that machine gunned her friends. So
Yeah, no, I mean, like that's, I mean, I completely like. I'm not trying to say that any of these people should not have been harmed in any way, but just the idea of Victoria just being okay with saying, "Sorry, if you don't get medical attention, it's not my fault." And I don't know, that just sat wrong with me a little bit.
right. I mean, basically, she's explicitly putting catching and stopping Cradle and saving the people who are in his egg over this person's life. And I think the fact is that she's already made that choice.
Right,
So this
because
is just her making that choice again, basically.
because the one thing we don't see here is her kind of deal with that in any way.
Yeah.
She seems fine with that decision. She's made it and she does it.
Yeah.
She doesn't like, she says it sits odd with her what happened to Contender. Like she's not like jazzed about it, but she clearly like, it's so funny that we saw from a person last week who was like almost stopped the number boy as he shot the ball bearing.
Yeah.
To now is just like, it's tough.
Yeah. Right.
And I think we'll see like a connection of this theory, or not this theory, of this feeling when she fights Etna here in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So yeah, she spots Etna, who's apparently like bobbing around and launching glass balls at the dog carrying Rain and Cassie. And so Victoria spends a couple of paragraphs thinking about tactics for dealing with the woman. And like she's like, oh, let me consider this for option one, blah blah blah. And then I love how this is executed. Option two, though, was to catch up to her when the constant turns had fucked with her most, tackle her, and use my flight and her disorientation to flip us both 10 times in 3 seconds before arresting our movement and firmly depositing her in the nearest hillside. The crash landing on her part was more because of her disorientation than any exaggerated force on my end. And so, like, it's fantastic because you're like, you don't realize that you're reading what she actually did until you're like 3/4 of the way through the paragraph, and then you just like can't help but burst out laughing because, like, especially because option one is like something subtle and careful, and this is just like, what actually just, when you visualize it, it's just kind of hilarious that she just slams into her, uses her flight to spin them around, and then just launches her at the hillside.
Yeah.
And she just splats in, like, it's so like Looney Tunes like level of like painful. And I love it.
Yeah, but it's so good. I mean, it's a fun, like, it's just fun writing. You're right, because it's a different way of describing the battle. Than it upends your expectations, but it also, I think, is reflective of where she is as a person right now, because like she's going through her strategies and she outlines option one, and then normally I think you would see Victoria outline option two and then make a decision and then go forward with her decision. But no, she's like, option two is to do this right now. No, and she, instead of outlining it in her mind what the plan is, she just does it. And it's a perfect encapsulation of what's going on in her head right now, where and we see that rather specifically later, where she's just like, she's got no more fucks, Matt. She's all out of them, and she just wants to, if anyone's standing in her way, she wants them gone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's thought several times about how basically frustrated she is with Edna specifically. Like, and here again, she thinks about how Edna is like reckless, willing to ally with the worst people, willing to just go along with things and never really take a stand. And here she is being a pain in her ass again. And it's like, this is just the culmination of all of the times that Etna has pissed her off in the past. But I mean, it is funny because she thinks, I had no idea why I found it quite as irritating as I did. Chalk it up to diminished defenses.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of do, because Etna's like the anti-Victoria in like every way. I mean, she even sort of has like a flight power and like she's kind of a mirror to her in that way. But she just is like the kind of person that you just know Victoria would hate. She goes along with things. She uses her power in a lazy and thoughtless way. It's like, that's going to get under her skin, definitely.
Yeah, and what I love about it too is that she's still like aware enough to question why she's as irritated as she is. Like, she's not just going, I had no idea why I found it quite as irritating as I did. So she's still she's still like aware enough of her stuff to question her behavior, right? Like she's not just like she's done. She's in fuck it mode, but not like 100%, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like because she's still questioning that. She's still questioning her behavior, like why she's getting to these places.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the thing I find most interesting about this is at the end of this whole thing, she slams her into the ground. She's done with her. She's pissed off at her. She, like you said, she is like a anti-Victoria kind of. And then she says, maybe I'd be more forgiving if I find out later that like Bluestocking ordered her to do that. Like she's like she's acknowledging that Etna might have just been following orders.
Yeah.
It's like I can't deal with this right now, but maybe if I learn about that later, I'll feel a little bit more bad about being so annoyed with her. But it's just like right now, nah, don't have time for that.
Right. Personally, it's impossible for me to feel bad at all about her throwing this person into a hillside.
Well, I'm not saying she should, but I just think it's funny that like that thought goes through her mind, that she almost comes up with an argument for why she would be behaving in this way after throwing her into the ground.
Yeah, true. So finally, Victoria explains her plan fully, which is, as Byron says, to turn Rain off and turn him back on again. Chastity agrees to do it despite the risk of being eaten by a shard monster, because love is the most important thing. And because she said she would help Rain before.
Yeah, but just with love. And then she just says, no, I said I would help him, which is wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I love this part because it's like, they're like, he said he wanted a way out of the dream. He said he wanted to find a way out of the dream. That's what he wanted anyway. And so that is what kind of encourages her to take the risk, because she knew this was something that he wanted. And man, Matt, all of Victoria's plans recently have involved like being heavily abusive to Rain in some shape or fashion. I'm just starting to feel bad for him.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of hitting Rain. There's a lot of invading Rain's personal bubble.
Yeah,
that's happened in this arc in general, and it's going to happen in the next chapter too. We'll talk about it then too. Yeah. So after Chastity is knocked out, Cassie starts to explain a bit that her and Chastity are very close, and we're going to revisit it in a minute. Actually, when I guess we'll just talk about it now.
Yeah, we'll just talk about it now.
Yeah, when Cassie elaborates that Chastity feels like she has an expiration date because Heartbreaker would dispose of women in their mid-20s. And Victoria promises that she'll keep an eye out for somebody who would be a good match for Chastity. And then she says, my best friend needs help too. She needs a body. I'll keep an eye out for your friend if you keep an eye out for mine.
Yeah, so we joke around about Chastity and her interactions with men a lot because they're really funny. Yeah. And we've joked around about Cassie and Chastity's friendship a lot too. We've done a lot of winky faces and innuendo about what's going on here. But look, like, this is friendship in its purest, wonderful form. This is a person who genuinely looking out for the well-being of her friend, who, thanks to her terrible, terrible father, has such a damaged, terrible view of relationships and love. The whole setup of this scene that we're talking about right now is because Victoria called Chastity incorrigible, and that was enough for Cassie to be like, not like, she doesn't walk up to her to yell at her about it, to fight her about it. She just kind of walks up to her and says, look, you're kind of right, but here, understand why. Like, you might be right about her behavior, but try to understand why she is this way. Here's what happened to her. Here's what she's been through. And it's this beautifully kind, compassionate moment where Cassie is showing how much she cares about this person. And then we kind of link it back to Victoria and Sveta here, where Victoria is asked for help and then asks for help back. And by linking these two friendships, we understand like the level they're both on, right? We've now said Cassie is to Chastity as Victoria is to Sveta. And I think that is the most clear way to make everyone understand the importance of each of these characters for each of the other characters on both sides of this thing. And I love it. I love it so much. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I don't think I have much to add there. I love how that bit is handled. And it's an interesting little interlude, that's kind of woven into this chapter. Because again, it basically takes place in two different places in the chapter. Like it's sort of was sort of primed on it, and then Cassie later like takes her aside and is like, look, let me kind of clarify what's going on here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's heartwarming, and I feel like something's gonna come of it because I feel like we're getting this whole like chastity plot line, for lack of a better word.
Sure. Yeah.
Where things are going to come due. I mean, like, because, you could have, I mean, I think we kind of knew ever since she said, like, long, many chapters ago, like, "Oh, okay, Rain, I'll help you because it's important to protect love." And that's finally coming due here. So I kind of expect to see other things to come due in the future.
Yeah. But again, I have to, like, in the middle of this part of the story where the bad guys are literally tearing our characters apart, we have once again a focus on community, a focus on a network of people. We have people caring and looking out for people they care about, and people willing to reach out to people outside of their immediate group for help, for support, for network, for caring. Like, over and over and over again, we're establishing and pointing towards this theme and this idea of community and the power of people being together. And in the midst of trying to defeat enemies that are literally ripping them apart, I think that is so, so important. And I just love seeing it in all the different facets of it, all the different ways we're seeing this, like family, family you choose, friendship. Like, this is a pure platonic friendship between these two characters, but it is one of the most powerful relationships we've seen in the story.
Yeah. I love that connection there. That's great. So Rain wakes up feeling like shit. All of his powers are almost non-existent, except his emotion power, which is cranked up to the max, which makes us realize that Rain did not take Cradle's offer, and Love Lost gave him the tokens, and we're so happy.
Yeah, we knew our boy wouldn't take those coins, Matt. In retrospect, we should have known. He's didn't trust that stupid Cradle man.
Yeah. I mean, I like that it was a little ambiguous the way that interlude ended, because you could have actually interpreted it to mean that Love Lost was going to give her tokens to someone as a penalty, like to give them an uncontrollable rage that would make them falter. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, well, the rage is not helping him, but
No.
the emotion power certainly is.
Sure, yeah, and especially since you're right, he has no other powers. He has no mover power. His blades are just normal looking blades that disappear instantly. His tinker power is like, I love the abstractness of kind of tinker powers when you're just like, think of some abstract device.
Yeah.
Nope, nothing's coming. I guess my tinker power isn't working.
Yeah.
I kind of love that. But yeah, just that emotion power, and it's pumped up. And and then we get this fun throughout the rest of these two chapters. We have these fun bits of dramatic irony that we're going to talk about a lot, especially next chapter. Of, we know that Rain has been dosed with some rage, Victoria doesn't, and the chapter is playing with this lack of knowledge on our point of view protagonists throughout all of this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the plan is for Rain to use his power on the interior of the egg, soaking Cradle in self-loathing and regret. Rain chats with Moose when they're back with the others, and Moose gives him the rundown on, I think, the potential regrets of the people in the building so that he can use them as a weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of this weird moment where you're like, okay, which of these are murderers? Which of these have maybe done something they regret, which are fine? Like, who can I target? Who is more susceptible to this thing? Who should I leave alone? All those kind of things. I like it a lot.
Right, and I like the distinction of, like, well, some of them are murderers, but some of them are murderers who don't feel anything about it. So that's
right.
Definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So the team breaks up into a complicated plan, some members sneaking around the building and avoiding the patrols, the bulk of the capes hanging back, ready to knock down the building if everything goes wrong.
And now, I know I just said that the Cassie and Chastity part was my favorite part of the chapter, but no, actually, Victoria wrapping her mom in a dog blanket and carrying her under her arm as she flies through the air is my favorite part of the chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know why, Matt, but I like, the book specifically tells me the opposite, but I always imagined Carol's ball as much bigger, like human sized for some reason, not like basketball sized or beach ball sized or whatever it is. So like, even though the book literally said the opposite, in my head it was always much bigger. So I actually think it's way more hilarious now that I can see it as like just a ball size that you could just carry around like this and be like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know exactly how big it is. I see it as like basketball sized. Yeah.
I mean, if it fits under, like if you can hold it under your arm, right? Like if you're holding it like this, kind of. Oh, people can't see me. Never mind. Like this, guys. Like this.
Well, I also didn't visualize it as glowing. I visualized it as metallic. So that's another one of those things where
oh, really?
Your brain just does whatever it's going to do.
I always visualized it as glowing.
It almost certainly is, because that's why she puts the dog blanket on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Who knows why I thought that? Yep. So she, as she carries her mom and Rain up to a window, she notices Rain's heart is hammering as she lifts off with him, which I suppose we ought to interpret as the rage manifesting.
Yeah, and I like the structure of this because we set this up. We're going to be talking about this dramatic irony a lot next chapter, as we said, but we're setting it up at the conclusion of this chapter. We're rounding about to the end of this chapter, and we're kind of laying the groundwork for you to understand. Yes, he's going to be agitated. Now you get to see how that plays out and how that increases the tension of the events that are going to happen.
Yeah. So Rain and Victoria sit at the window, and Rain begins to cook the egg.
And she makes a second chapter-ending egg pun, Matt.
So happy.
Yeah, a second. If you do one more, I heard that Eggle juice comes. There's a Beetlejuice reference, guys. You guys know Beetlejuice? No?
I hope so. I'm down for more egg references. That's why I'm here.
Oh, that's why you're here, Matt?
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
So chapter 12.6, and we pick right back up with Rain cooking that egg, and it's very quickly apparent that Rain is losing it a little bit, in a way that I find delightful, frankly. He can't keep his voice down. He keeps making these violent movements with his arms, and his words are just like kind of like betraying this deep anger that's growing in him.
Yeah, this is a really tense chapter overall. The chapter is dealing with tension in a lot of fun ways, and the dramatic irony really helps wonderfully enforce everything the chapter is trying to do tension-wise. We see Victoria struggling with this, like, she's like, why is he acting this way? Why is he doing this? He's being ridiculous. Like, and she doesn't understand, and that, like, it makes it kind of funny. You're right, it makes it entertaining and it's silly a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, is he gonna go too far? Like, there's a bit we'll get to in a bit where he's like pressing his hand against the glass so hard that for a second there she's like, oh, he might just shatter that. Like, it's wonderful. It's like this, you're seeing like completely irrational, like, and the important part is that it's so different from how Rain normally acts.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what makes it kind of funny, because like Rain is kind of a lovable, not doofus, that's not right, but he's kind of a lovable guy.
Doofus. Doofus.
But, well,
doofus.
It's not because he's dumb. It's just because he always takes the brunt of every unfortunate thing that happens. And now he's like, this is kind of yet another unfortunate thing that's happening, but it's like making him act crazy in a way that's not hurting anyone, and so it's okay to laugh about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first part of the chapter is constructed, I think, for maximum tension. Basically, we're painting a detailed picture of the guard patrols that the team is trying to evade. Victoria gives nicknames to the various guards, which are actually just like numbers in different languages. And she kind of characterizes them, and like in the process of trying to anticipate them, she's thinking about their habits, and it's all really, really great writing, I think.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it for so many different reasons, but there's no real reason to name the guards, right? Like just from a structural perspective, like they're anonymous guards. We're not going to really probably ever see them again. Giving them names, personifying this way, has no long-term story purpose. But in doing so, we do so much at the start of this chapter to establish the tension. We by naming the guards, we have a better grip of the geography of the roof. We kind of know, okay, 1 and 2 are over there, and then 4 and 5 are the ones doing this, and they each have a different personality. They each do a different thing. They each have a different way that they patrol up here. And this little bit of characterization goes such a long way in making you feel the tension of this opening, feel the moments of actual fear when you think, oh shit, they're going to be discovered. This could blow up at any moment. And on top of it could blow up at any moment, we have Rain, who's acting like a nut job, and not being strategic at all, and compound that with being discovered could be just disastrous. And I think I don't think we can undersell the importance that actually comes with just spending 2 lines characterizing these people. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Wildbow always does, I think, is he tries to put you in the same position as the protagonist, to the point where you feel like you're problem solving along with them, which means that you need to know all of the same information and constraints that they know.
Yeah,
because otherwise you have like the Sherlock Holmes syndrome, where they solve problems and you're like, oh yeah, well, I didn't know about that, so that's not fun for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that has its own kind of implicit enjoyment to it.
Yeah, that's fun, I think, under different, like, if you're trying to make me impressed with the protagonist, for one thing. But this is a situation where the fun is like you're with the protagonist. You're looking over her shoulder through that window and you're solving the problem along with her. Like, that's the experience of reading anyway.
Yeah.
When
I
it's
agree with
written
that.
like
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Yeah, so Rain mentions that Tattletale and 3 other people are, quote, in the bubble. And I'm not sure what that means. I kind of had to like think about it for a second. So I think that there's Colt, Lovelost, and Cradle are like inside the bubble, and then the bubble comprises Tattletale and then 3 other people, which may be Capricorn, Moonsong, and maybe Kenzie. Like, I guess we kind of have to just guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was my. Yeah, I think the imagery of the bubble, the egg, is something I struggled with a little bit, because like it's described as this 15 feet across thing that's sitting inside of a mech that's being supported by a mech that's a bunch of hands that all come together to support this thing, and it is It is comprised of pieces of people, right? And there are 3 people inside it, we can assume, because right after this moment, there's this. Victoria says she was hoping that Cradle was actually in the mech, so she could just take him away, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
in the bubble, yeah,
right?
Yeah, but the bubble is in the mech, so that's what kind of threw me off.
Well, the bubble's not in the mech though.
Well, is on the mech, right?
The mech. The point of the mech is it's holding the bubble.
Okay. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is if it is the other way around, right? Is if it is saying there are Tattletale and 3 people inside the egg, then the question becomes, what's Tattletale doing in there? Why did he pull Tattletale in there too? Right? I mean, that becomes an interesting question that I don't know the answer to. If that is what we're supposed to take from this.
Yeah, I think we'll figure out what's going on here. I was just a little bit thrown off.
Yeah.
So Rain is also sniping at the various soldiers in capes with his power, surgically hitting them with bursts of regret, watching their reactions, and then playing a game of pushing just when it seems like a push would throw them off balance.
Yeah, and again, our dramatic irony reveals its head here. We know Victoria has asked him to go easy on these people, and normally Rain probably would have been really good at like going very easy on them and not pushing too hard, but we know that this Rain is not quite himself today, and that his power is much more powerful than it normally is. The fact that he's more powerful with less ability to hold himself back we're seeing this pushing and prodding, and we're now worried, is he going too far with this? What's going to happen? Like, is this really going to work out in a way we want it to? And that's all part of leading to the overall tension of the chapter.
Yeah, right. So speaking of violating Rain's personal space, I think it's funny how Victoria keeps forcefully shoving her hand under his mask to block his mouth.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, shh. Like, it's, I mean, there's been so many instances over these last several chapters of like her grabbing him, shoving him, grabbing his mask, just ordering someone else to slap him. I don't know. It's, I mean, part of me thinks it's just funny, but part of me is like, is he gonna be like, stop touching me?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I think it is. It's great because like functionally, putting your hand over someone's mask doesn't stop their mouth from moving in a way that.
Well, she shoved her hand under the mask onto his actual mouth, which to
Yeah,
me would just drive me crazy. I'd be like, get your fucking hand out of my mask. What
yeah,
are you doing?
but covering a mask. That's my point. Is covering a
Yeah,
mask. Like
right.
I can still move my mouth just fine unless you
Yeah,
like like it's out of necessity. But you're right. It is
yeah,
like it is poor Rain getting abused again. And I think in the back of our mind we're like, well, he's in already an agitated state. Like the stuff that Rain without love lost teeth would put up with is not going to be the same stuff that this Rain would put up with.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of in the back of your mind is yeah, you see her grab his face and then like fly down with him, right? Because someone was walking by.
yeah,
And she's just like throwing him around kind of like a rag doll.
yeah, yeah. Yep. So we learned a little bit about Chugalug, the trash changer, who flies over, and the description's super fucking gross, Scott.
Yeah, I was eating when I read this. So awesome.
Yeah, the description of the smell was just, I was just like,
It was very vivid. Very,
yeah,
very, very, yeah,
yeah,
it was very important that we focus on how bad the smell is.
yeah. I can taste that in my throat.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about this before. Wildbow has this deft way of doing the writing thing that I personally struggle with. Kind of harkens back to what we were just saying about describing the the traits of the guards. But I'm going to go into it more here just because I think that it's just really well done overall in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an opportunity to talk about it. So like you got this scene with like 50 bad guys, and it's seductive to just write the bad guys as like a mass, just like the mercenaries, the enemy, the black clad assailants. And then when one of them does something, it's just like one of the mercenaries did the thing. But Wildbow has spent much of this chapter carefully lodging specific enemies in our minds. Like we know Chugalug now, we know the Lumberjack, we know Sibin, we know Red, we know probably twice that many actually. So it could have been just like a flat kind of same mass of baddies is made colorful, complex, dynamic, and tense on top of all that because you're following what is now in your head a very complex scene.
Yeah. And I actually, I think this is something that I think in going back to our early experience with Worm, this is something that I think he's just tangibly better at than he was back at the very beginning of that book. I think we talked like one of the first big multi-cape fights in that battle or that book, how kind of things kind of got lost in the geography and like you kind of lost your way a little bit what was going on. And we compare it to this, which has so many different moving parts. We have so many different characters. Like we have all of our heroes and like Foil's off doing something and Sveta's over here with Carol doing something else. And then we have all of our villains. We've got at the same time as our patrol is rotating on the roof and there are two capes up there, we've got all these other capes at the bottom. You're absolutely right. Like this is so much stuff going on at the same time. And yet I was able to keep track of it. I never lost who was what. I never lost what was going on. I never lost what the stakes and the tensions and the conflicts of each little bit of the scene were. That's all clear and it all runs through in a very clean, organized, easy to understand way. And that's what makes the emotions of this chapter work. Because if you get confused, if you lose your way in it, you just lose all grasp of the tension.
Yeah, exactly. So Victoria goes to check on Sveta, and Sveta actually seems to be like psyching herself up for having to kill somebody.
Yeah. And I think the really important part that we need to point out here, though, and I think this is going to matter a bit in a couple minutes, is Sveta is just like chilling with Carol in ball form. Like she's just like holding her. She's the dog wrapped in the blanket and she's got tendrils around her. And she's whispering to her. When Victoria approaches, Sveta is whispering something to Carol and she stops as soon as Victoria shows up. And that might matter in a bit for some reason.
Yeah, we'll see. So when she gets back to Rain, he's like climbing around dangerously on the side of the building, just like pumping power into the crowd. And he's just like overwhelmed with rage as he uses the power. I mean, we realize like the fact that he's using the power is probably what's making him lose it quite to the degree that he is now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I love the detail of this because he's climbing around on the little stepping stones that Foil left for herself, and we
Yeah.
know like Foil has like enhanced powers to make like traversing these things possible, and Rain doesn't, and you're just like, oh, dude, it's like, I mean, it's literally like she's babysitting, right? Because like she comes back and he's gone, and it's just like, oh god, it's like baby's day out, but with Rain.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this bit, like he's using it on the crowd, and he's making them do increasingly dumb things and take risks. And she says, "Remember, your power educates them." I remember, Rain said. I disabled it just as he did the stupid thing. I laughed.
Yeah, but I mean, look at how he's talking though. Like I love this. Like the text emphasizes remember. They put it in italics. So like I remember, as if like Victoria's annoying the fuck out of him at this point. And we have him. He when he talks to her, he hisses at her. And he's losing it. And it's just so wonderfully conveyed. Like it is both Rain and different Rain at the same time. Like you can still recognize the fundamental core of who he is, because like the things that he's getting really mad about is like he's thinking about Tristan and how Tristan was one of the only ones that had his back, and he's thinking about Kenzie and the things Cradle had done to her, and it's just so good. I like it so much.
Yeah, me too. So I love that Sibin. I know I'm not pronouncing these words right. I'm sorry. Sibin. It's probably Sibin.
It's German. I don't know.
Yeah. Sibin, one of the patrolling mercenaries, found Sveta. So that's what happens next. They find Sveta because when there was a noise, Sibin intentionally looked away from the noise, because that's a pretty good habit to have unless you want to end up like an NPC in a Metal Gear Solid or Hitman game or whatever. So like, yeah, I just low-key love the competence and individuality of these mooks.
Yeah, and it's great because Victoria immediately assumes that it has to have been because of a power. Like her immediate assumption is, oh, that was really clever and smart of you. Is it a power? And her response is, no, good habits. And I like that, like, it does a little characterization of this nameless mook, as you said, but it's also Victoria characterization where, like, whenever she's slightly impressed by someone, her immediate thought is, it must be powers related. And I think that's very Victoria in her. She has such a Kate-centric view of the world.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So let's talk about this interaction that you mentioned a second ago. I'll watch them, Sveta said. Kill them if I have to. You, my mom said. She pointed at Sveta. I'm not impressed. What the hell? It's fine, Sveta said. What the hell? I whispered. I mean, I love this because Victoria just repeatedly saying "what the hell" as she's just like, "Oh my god, what did I miss? What's going on between you two?" And just like you can sense this just like simmering tension between Sveta and Carol, which I suppose has been there forever, but now it's just on the point of it's such a wonderful Carol thing to say.
Yeah,
I'm not impressed.
Well, and it especially combined with the fact that we know like Victoria has been going like above and beyond for the last few chapters to like help Sveta as much as possible, like to make her feel like she's helping and included. Like she knows Sveta's in a rough place and she's trying as hard as she can to like lift her up a bit, and then her mom comes in with this "I'm not impressed." And yeah, I mean there's a lot of interesting things to be said about this, because like on the surface level, Sveta says, I'm willing to kill these people if I have to, and then Carol's reaction to that is like immediately like super negative. And like, while I'm not like a huge fan of this idea of like killing like captured prisoners, I think it would be a rather understandable thing in this situation, where if someone like suddenly tries to escape or fights back or attacks you, like to try to take them out, and also just to use as a threat to these people because they can hear what you're saying.
Right.
And I don't see Carol as the type of person that would like that is the reason, right? That like threatening someone with death is going to be the reason why she gets mad. Because like when Victoria flies back to the situation, Carol is standing there with two light blades against their neck. Like she's already threatening them with death. That's what she's doing, just in actions instead of words. So that's why I want to go back to this idea that Sveta is whispering to her for who knows how long, like probably maybe a while. Maybe she's like airing stuff out, or like the last time we saw those two people talk, Sveta told Carol to mom the fuck up, right? So like that's when we last left their conversation, and now we're here with she gets an uninterrupted, like Carol is in ball form, she can't talk back, she's a ball, and Sveta is just allowed to talk to, she has a captive audience and she's allowed to talk. So I mean, I think that's more what Carol's "I'm not impressed" is coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like that she was reacting to something that had happened before Victoria got there.
Yeah,
which is why Victoria is like, "What the hell?" And it's like that's not a, what's happening right here doesn't make sense. And then Sveta just being like, "It's fine,"
right,
is indicating like, we're not going to talk about it right now.
And Sveta knows exactly why she's saying this to her.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I love that bit, because now the implication is you're right in Victoria's point of view, where you're like, what's going on here? Why? What did she say to her? What did Sveta say to Carol? What's going on with Carol right now?
Yeah, can't wait to find out.
I mean, is it probably Victoria related, but maybe it's a lot of the swan song stuff we've been talking about that's kind of been in the background of all these interactions for the last few chapters. I don't know. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, me too. So Victoria gets back to Rain just in time to watch Red obliterate a couple of guys with her masses of splashes of heavy metal pieces. And Rain's like, oh no, I drove them to do that.
Yeah.
And Victoria thinks, or she says, yeah. And then thinks, I was caught between saying, that's not on you, and I did fucking tell you to go easy.
Yeah, it's such a loaded statement, right? Like, it's such like, I was caught between saying that's not your fault, and that was definitely your fault. Yeah. Like, she's somewhere in between the two, and she doesn't know which way to go, so she just leaves it at and again, we know, like, she is confused. Like, I told you to do this. Why are you acting like this? And she doesn't know. And it's just a wonderful way to hold that tension and keep that tension going.
Yeah. And then I love this whole subsequent conversation between them, because I think it's very important for both characters. It's this great moment for them individually, and then kind of for their, I guess, relationship, right? Because they have been spending a lot of time together recently. Because Rain compares what he's doing right now to what cult leaders do, pushing buttons, manipulating. And Rain says it makes him feel big, powerful, better. And that makes him feel sick. Like, the fact that he feels good doing this stuff makes him feel sick. And Victoria, formerly Glory Girl, says, yeah, sometimes you do feel satisfaction when you fuck up people who deserve it. The danger, she says, is when you stop feeling shitty about feeling satisfaction about it. And then he goes on and he says, but I'd feel worse if I didn't do anything. That's the way it goes, I whispered.
Yeah. Oh, God, let's talk about this forever. Okay. We could probably spend an hour on this. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've talked about, and one of the things the book has kind of drawn for us, is this relationship between Rain and Victoria. And at the very start of the relationship, she compared Rain to Amy, right? She said, like, it was this moment where Rain was about to tell them what was going on and tell them the truth about himself, and she immediately went, that's Amy, like that. This is like when Amy, like, told us about her father, where she really came from, and connected that. And then later she connected Cradle to herself in what he was saying about what Rain did to him, supposedly, right? So there's always been, like, this very important connection between these two characters on a level where I think we've understood why Victoria is agitated with him, and it tends to get more annoyed and upset with him than maybe some of the other members of the group. Why she's kind of quick to be upset at Rain. And then we take that central idea, and then we kind of have both characters come together in a moment of where she fundamentally understands exactly what he's going through. So we've kind of moved from her seeing him as this Amy substitute in her life to maybe understanding him on a different level, to maybe that's a hint towards her ability to understand Amy, or maybe that's just her growing to understand that maybe what she didn't like about this guy was how much it reminded her of herself. And I love that. I love that you're absolutely right that this is just as important for her as it is for him.
Yeah, right. There's always been this fascinating sense in which Rain is kind of like the way Amy is, but he's also a lot like the way Victoria is.
Right.
And she very rarely makes these comparisons explicitly, but clearly a lot of the way she behaves toward him is reflected in the fact that she's kind of making these comparisons and contrasts subconsciously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's why I love this conversation, is it feels like a lot of the things that are kind of going on between them under the surface get aired out and made explicit between them. And
yeah.
Like, it's not like they hug and agree to be friends after this,
No.
but it feels like something was accomplished by them having this conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's something so important to this idea that sometimes it's okay to feel satisfied when you're hurting the bad people, right? Like sometimes like that is a natural okay reaction to getting one over on people as bad as Cradle. But as long as you keep that in context, as long as you don't lose this perspective on it, where you keep the fact that yes, sometimes that feels good, but it should feel a little bit bad too. Like there should be part of it that makes you feel like, oh, I'm getting the bad people, but I'm having to do kind of shitty things to do it, and I should feel a little bit of guilt on that. Not enough to stop you, because like as she says, that's the way it goes. Like sometimes it's worse to do nothing in those situations. Yes, you should do it. It is the right thing to do, but you're going to feel a little bit bad about it. And as long as you keep hold of feeling a little bit bad about it, it's a sign that you're not going down that path yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not losing the part of you that makes you not like them, basically.
Right. And I think that it's a wonderful setup for the last line of this chapter that we're going to get to in a minute.
Yeah. So the level of commotion inside the building escalates, and the heroes are forced to act outside, executing the pineapple 710 whatever maneuver, overwhelming the mercs quickly. But then the egg opens, and Cradle is awake early, covered in blood. He's struggling. There are wet tracks down his cheeks through the blood, and he screams. And it feels good.
Yeah, it certainly does. There is something here that jumped out at me immediately, that feels like we're setting up to something else. Like in this moment, his hands clutched at his chest, then reached for a pocket eyeglass case. He stopped, not putting them on. And this feels to me like we're setting something up. This feels like, and I know you've read the chapter, so shut up. But this feels to me like this is like a Cradle tick, or maybe this is a tick of former Cradle before he became Cradle, and that this is, I feel like this is going to pay off in some way in the next chapter in a cool way. And it's just like, because it's so specific, right? It's so like the first thing he does is reach out for his eyeglass case. Then he stops, he doesn't put it on. Then he reaches for his mask, and then he stops and doesn't put that on either. And then he just screams. Like that is a very significant series of moves. And I feel like that's going to pay off some way.
Yeah.
In the next chapter that I know is a Cradle chapter. So.
Yes. I love your thoughts here.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, yeah, no, it's just the whole ending of the chapter is fantastic. Just this idea of him roaring, and like, so I interpreted the scream as being like, just like devastation on some level, like I guess frustration too, though. But yeah, I love it.
Well, I mean, a lot of what we've talked about around Cradle is like his emotion power. Or at least the part of it that he gave to Love Lost seems to be the ability to feel nothing, right? Like so to make the general assumption that is who Cradle is, that he doesn't feel a lot.
Yeah.
So we see him in this moment crying. He comes, and he's early. We don't really understand why he woke up early. Maybe something to do with what Rain was doing. Maybe something else entirely. But seeing him cry means he's feeling this, means that this thing worked, that whatever Rain was doing to him got to him in a way that made him feel something. And yeah, if you're a person who doesn't feel, and suddenly someone makes you feel feelings, especially feelings like guilt and regret about all the terrible, terrible, terrible things you've been doing, yeah, you're probably not gonna probably not going to react very, very great to that. And I love that they kind of set this up throughout the chapter, because one of the things that Victoria and Rain were talking about as he's kind of bugging these people is the idea that everyone reacts to guilt and regret in different ways. Everyone has different reactions to it. Like some people get violent, some people close up, they leave, they run away. Everyone deals with it differently.
Yeah. And so this chapter ends with the line, "There it was, that satisfaction that didn't feel as awful as it needed to."
And that's just a wonderful payoff. We had this whole moment where Victoria is coaching Rain, as long as it doesn't stop feeling bad, you're good. And then she admits here in this moment that him screaming, the fact that this worked, that they boiled him, didn't feel as awful as it needed to.
Yeah. But I mean, I love that, because that's how you feel, right? In the moment, you're like, yeah, fuck you, Cradle.
Right.
Which is, it's hard to hold that against Victoria, that she's feeling satisfaction about this.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna sit here and be like you should or should not feel this. The thing that I find fascinating is her awareness of it, right? Like she is the one saying this. She is both feeling really good about this while simultaneously being aware that she doesn't feel as bad about it as she feels that she should, or that she needs to feel. Like it's not that it didn't feel as awful as I wanted it to. It didn't feel as awful as it needed to. And
that's a good point.
We've talked about how, the Shard said Victoria was on this ledge and she could go this path, and then we have this moment where we seem to be moving towards this real moment of choice for Victoria, where she's gonna decide which one of these paths she's gonna go down, and this is a beat along that path towards that eventual choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point to close the discussion on, because I have a hard time seeing a path where Victoria is anything that I would consider to be a tyrant.
Yeah, I agree.
But that doesn't mean that the path isn't something a little bit more nuanced than I'm maybe considering, because like stuff like this, like you give her the power to stop the monsters.
Yeah.
And suddenly things look different, right? Like she's got the waste shard, right? She's got garbage powers. She only gets good use out of them because she's clever. What if she suddenly had really great powers and she could stop the monsters? But in order to do that, you have to impose your will on a lot of people who don't want you to do that. Now you start to risk becoming a tyrant, right? Now that's actually plausible.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of where my head is at right now, is like, maybe at the start of these two chapters, I was like, no way does Victoria become a tyrant. That's so antithetical to who she is. And it's like, yeah, well, you hand her the button and you say, you push this button and you can stop the monsters. But a lot of other stuff is going to happen. People aren't going to like it. Are you going to push the button? Maybe she does.
I mean, I think you're right. I don't think any kind of tyranny from Victoria would look as cut and dry as what we think of when we think of a tyrannical person, right? I think it would come in a kind of insidious way where it seems like the right thing to do. And it probably would even be, to a certain extent, like once again, I think we have to say that her killing Cradle here, if she is the one that ends up if she's the one that pulls the proverbial trigger on this, it's the right thing to do. He's clearly a bad person that needs to be stopped. He needs to be stopped. Right. But yeah, like that is a perfect way to demonstrate going down a path, is that you do it in a situation where it is unquestionably the right call. What about the next one? What about the next one? What about the next one? And I don't know if that's where we're going with her. I hope that's not where we're going with her. I hope she's better than that, but that doesn't mean that it's not a possibility.
I mean, I do feel like the story is going to be facing her with these questions, and and then what path she chooses will be, the drama, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, yeah,
and it's not like life and these stories is not about just that choice, right? It's it's 1,000 micro choices. You might even make the decision to turn away from this path of tyranny that her Shard was talking about. That doesn't mean that, okay, you're done, you've did it, you've done it, you've walked away from that path, and you'll never be challenged to make these kind of decisions again. That's just not the way things work. And so it's going to be interesting going forward to see how that goes. And I think my thing is, I think as long as Victoria stays with her group, values her community, values the network that she's created, and her natural inclination to reach out to other people for help and support, she can stay away from that path.
Yeah, I hope so. So that wraps up the chapter discussion. Now let's talk about last week's discussion question and the wonderful answers y'all gave. So the question was, consider what these shard POVs are saying about different ways trauma can manifest and different ways people can respond to their trauma.
All right, and first up we have EXE, JPEG, Windows Media Viewer? Sure.
I don't know.
And they focus specifically on Victoria and March for obvious reasons, because those are the shard point of views we've seen. First, they say Vicky's shard point of view represents someone struggling to maintain a delicate, healthy equilibrium in the face of past traumas rearing up and a currently stressful situation. While difficult, this has led to Victoria having more stable relationships and made her more understanding of others. While March's shard's point of view mostly shows someone having fully given in to the comfortable delusion, not really managing or even fully acknowledging their trauma, and acting on these delusions has gotten numerous innocent people and even one of her friends killed. That's a really great comparison. I like that's a good summary of the differences between the two of these characters and how those shards represent those differences.
Yeah, I like that too. Cal Subalu says, I think that with the loss of the warrior hub, the shards have experienced trauma, which in some cases directly parallels their capes, and therefore one of the core themes of the story, recovery. We know the shards have been hurt because that's sort of what caused all this trouble. We've seen what happens when the shards fail to cope with their losses, broken triggers, slow bleed out of power, change paralysis. We've also seen some of the things that happen when a shard latches onto unhealthy behavior in an effort to be not broken. In 12. All shards shut off their cape's powers to experience a moment of communication, potentially putting at risk what's left of their ability to change. What we haven't seen much of is shards actually learning coping mechanisms or finding ways to recover through using them. It seems plausible that a shard, cough the waste, cough, or a group of shards, cough breakthrough, hack, might learn some coping strategies from their hosts that can be applied to themselves, that they might be able to recover and even self-improve in a manner that doesn't involve centuries of combat games. Yeah, so I like this a lot. I like specifically this idea that, well, I guess it borders on being a theory, that either waste or breakthrough, or like the collective of breakthrough, or some combination of the two, sort of, when you think about it for a minute, have a lot of unusual shard shenanigans going on with them, which could be like the secret code, to cracking the solution to creating a new hub or something like that. So. And that would be kind of satisfying in a number of ways, because they're also the therapy group who is trying to recover.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. It's the power of group therapy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I continue to be worried about this idea that like reestablishing the shard hub is the way to go. like that's going to be a good thing. The shards connect to each other now. Great. Problem solved? No.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's just kind of conceptual shorthand for something shards, something recovery, change, and potential for growth, that rather breaking the status quo, which is basically like the shards are all going to die and everybody's going to die and everything's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly like this idea of extending this, like because one of the things that Worm did so well was extend this metaphor of trauma beyond just the characters and to the shards themselves. Like I still love the moment where Sion is defeated via bullying, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like taking the metaphor and exploring it from all angles. And so this idea of recovery and taking that and not just exploring that within our characters in general, but using the shards as a much more broader explanation or examination of recovery is an interesting idea, that what these shards need to do now is get better. And what would that look like? I think that is an interesting path to think about.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Sarah Penguin thinks that Waste has shown us what the shards want most is an identity, and she compares the identities of all the different members of Breakthrough, and how that they're doing a similar thing. They're looking for identity. So Victoria, she's cycling through different identities, and she has to try to find one that fits her. She has to deal with not being able to identify with herself when she disassociates. Swan Song is a part of her recovery, is establishing a new identity away from a terrifying villain persona, and she has become more Swan Song. She seems to be much calmer and more stable. Sveta, Cauldron took her identity from both her physically and mentally, and after what went down with the Irregulars, she also lost most of the camaraderie from the people with her shared trauma. Byron, his trigger event was over a fight about Tristan stealing his identity, and then he has to deal with it with trying to have his own identity while trapped inside someone else. Tristan, same as Byron, but with the added issue of being gay. He has to deal with people like Paris who are willing to attack him and people he cares about. Rain, his trauma is being raised and abused by a cult, and part of his recovery is forging his own identity, not one that was forced on him. Chris, he's dealing with the identity of Lab Rat versus Chris and trying to make himself feel like himself. And then Kenzie seems to have more of an issue with the lack of identity. Kenzie seems to formulate her entire personality around the person she is with. She even changes her cape name last minute, and that shows she's changing her identity to make one person happy. So yeah, I mean, like this general idea that everyone in Breakthrough is having their own kind of version of an identity crisis. They are searching for who they are and what that means. And through Waste, that is exactly what we saw the Shard is doing too. The Shard wants its own identity. And that could be hinting at what most of the Shards want. Like, remember, we only have these two things to compare. So we have Victoria Shard, we have March's Shard. We know one is lost and searching for identity. We know the other seems pretty confident in what it is. Maybe Victoria's Shard is more representative of what they all feel like. And then everyone is searching for identity as these Shards are as well. I like that.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome how well that fits. How man, there's just so much going on with these characters. I love it.
Yeah. That's why it's because they're complex, three-dimensional characters with lots of different facets of everything this book is talking about mixed in there.
Yep. So last 657 says, these Shard POVs are not saying anything about different ways trauma can manifest. I say this because I don't think these are Shard POVs. The POVs are from the interfaces between Shards and hosts. The perspective is too much like a person to be the Shards. These perspectives seemed more human-like than either of the entity interludes, and they were making themselves human-like. The entities were making themselves human-like.
Yeah.
But see, man, I think that's the whole thing is like Glastic-Wenier said, like the Shards become the masks, like that they're just as influenced by the people as the people are by them. I think that's true. Like Scion didn't have a human he was attached to.
Yeah.
He was just a
facsimile.
Computer, yeah, and even that was only sort of part of what he was. So I don't know. I feel like this is literal textual evidence that yes, the Shards are becoming more like their hosts as their hosts become kind of more like them, and it's
yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah. I think like I agree with last 5 or 657 that these perspectives seem way more human-like than either of the entity interludes showed them. Even the one where the thinker like moves into the future and and how she behaves in the future. I totally agree that the Shards are way more human than those were, but I'm with you, and I think that's the point. Like that, I think that's what this is showing, that being attached to these humans, being separated from their network, and only networking with the human that they're a host of, is making them more human. So yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting. Like a point of view of the interface between the Shards and the host would be an interesting thing, but I don't know. I think these are the Shards.
Yeah.
All right, and finally we have Tsarwat, who focuses on March because her Shard echoes her trauma in a particularly tragic way. They wrote a very long post, so we're just going to try to kind of go through the abridged version of it. From her interlude, we see how stifled May was, controlled by her mother, bullied into a hectic yet efficient life that gave her virtually no time for personal development or individual expression. Then her mother dies. Her dream is realized. She's free. But the first thing she does is follow the schedule laid out for her, traveling alone to the music school that she has an appointment with. Now March will never have freedom. She has an entirely new controller now. She belongs to the Shard. She is theirs. And they go through all the ways in which this is kind of shown out in March's character. And they conclude with, the real tragedy of March isn't that her dream is impossible. It's that she escapes from her mother's control by being overtaken by something far worse. The schedule is just inside her now. I love that explanation. The schedule is inside her now. It's like it was an external force, and now it is just her. And I love this idea that, like, on top of, like, you look at March and you see chaos and you see like madness and just whatever. It is very kind of Joker like, where the Joker's like, I'm just doing all this crazy stuff, but underneath all of that, there is a higher purpose. There is planning. There is strategy. Like, we know that, like, how her power works is just like coordination to like the nth degree, right? So like what comes off as like mad nonsense freedom to do whatever you want is actually this tightly controlled, regimented life. And with her shard perspective, we see that that's the truth. She belongs to them, our little March. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I love the schedules inside of her. And that reminds me that the shard accessed her memories of her mother to find words that it wanted to use.
Yeah.
It's like, it's even manifesting her mother specifically.
Yep. That sucks.
Yeah, right. All right. So discussion question for next week is, who's your favorite Parahumans character who would have been a faceless background character in a lesser story?
Yeah, so someone that another story would not have spent any time focusing on at all, but that these stories actually did take the time.
Yeah, and it's kind of loosely worded so that it can be loosely interpreted.
As we do. All right. So March Madness round 1 results, Scott. Yeah, so all the results, if you haven't checked it out, all the results can be found at www.doofmedia.com/March Madness. If you look at the brackets themselves, the scores are the percentage of votes that went to each character, so you can see that there. Because there were 32 matchups in the first round, we are not going to go through all 32 of them one by one. There's just too many. We will do this as the brackets shrink down as we get closer to the end, but for now, we're just going to like highlight some of the biggest surprises or interesting things that happen in this first round. So we can just go back and forth, Matt.
Sure. So number 1, the memes lose.
Yeah.
People were very worried about like the sleeper and Emma being included in the bracket because apparently these are like meme picks and the memes are just going to win out just because memes and memes. That didn't happen. Tattletale destroyed Emma with 95% of the total vote, and our girl Victoria took down the sleeper with 64% of the vote.
Yeah, people were really worried about this. I intentionally did Dragon versus Saint as well, just for the fun of that. And people were like, "Oh no, Saint's gonna win because people are gonna want to meme it." That didn't happen either. So I think the best thing about this bracket is it has conclusively proven that Saint was wrong. I think.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Next up. Everybody hates Brian. So every single member of the Undersiders advanced to the second round, except for our man Gru, who only got 29% of the vote to Miss Militia's 71%. Sorry, Brian, you're dead.
Poor Brian.
Again.
Next, I'm Kid Win, and I'm here to Kid Lose. Or, I'm here to lose, was the original quote. Kid Win goes down in the first round to Lung. Lung picked up 69% of the vote. Nice. With against Kid Win's 31%.
Yeah, I really expected this one to be closer. I wasn't sure if I voted for Kid Win. I think you did as well. I expected him to do a little bit better here.
Yeah,
it was a bummer.
See, I just couldn't bring myself to vote against him. That was why.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Poor Kid Win.
Yeah. And last we had just a few upsets in the first round. Not too many. I think we seeded rather well. The biggest upset of them all was the number 6 seeded Alexandria lost to the 11th seeded Echidna. This was the closest match of the round, Matt, with Noelle getting 52% of the vote to Alexandria's 48%. I think there was less than 50 votes that separated these two in the end, but Alexandria lost and Noelle moves on to the second round. That was really surprising. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, it's one of those tough ones. I mean, as I'm looking over these upsets, they're all what I would consider to be tough,
Yeah.
tough picks.
And because the next one is going to break your poor heart, Matt. Seventh
Okay.
seeded Trickster lost out to the 10th seeded Leviathan. You just can't beat these giant kaiju. You just can't do it.
It's so brutal.
This wasn't even a particularly close matchup, Matt. 32% of the vote went to Trickster. That's all he got, 32%. So,
Man.
Sorry, buddy. People don't like Kraus.
Oh, man, I'm really mad. I'm really mad now. Really upset about this.
I don't think you are. And lastly, the last upset of the bracket of the first round was 10th seeded Dinah takes down the Golden God Scion, who was the 7th seed. This was another close-ish match, with Dinah getting 57% of the vote to Scion's 43%. Sorry, Golden Boy. You got bullied again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like that matchup just because it's clever.
Yeah, Dinah won. Dinah won again.
Dinah won again.
She's always winning.
All right, Scott. Round 2 picks. We got 16 matches in round 2.
All right.
So let's just do it.
All right, so let's start in the Aleph region with our first matchup: Skitter versus Jack Slash. Who you got, Matt?
Skitter.
Yeah, this is this is an easy choice for me as well. Taylor is. What is your methodology for this? Because we kind of intentionally left it open.
I mean, mostly I'm going with what is the character who I just find more interesting. And sometimes that's actually very close. So then it comes down to things like, okay, well, who do I like more?
Mm-hmm.
Which usually has a clearer answer anyway. So
yeah, that's fair.
Like this next one, Jessica Yamada versus Eidolon. I find them both really interesting. I think I'm more interested in the concept of a parahuman therapist. So that's what the one I would go with.
I voted for Eidolon here. I love Jessica Yamada, but I David's arc throughout the story is one of my favorite things about it. I love this idea of the all-powerful hero who still feels like they're not strong enough. That's really appealing to me, and it's very sad.
All right. Well, I guess we cancel each other out on that one.
Yeah, there you go. Next up, we have Clockblocker versus Miss Militia. Ooh, this is going to be a tough one, Matt. I think this is going to be really close.
Yeah, I think I just have a very special place in my heart for Dennis, so I voted for Clockblocker on this one.
I voted for Clockblocker as well.
Okay.
I love Dennis. I loved his character. Miss Militia, I think she's interesting, but I don't know. The story had just so much less to do with her at times.
Yeah. I feel like we meet her in a later point in her journey of life, whereas Clockblocker is going through so much more hectic things. There just seems to be more going on with him in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Next, 12 of the Aleph bracket, Contessa versus Echidna.
So our surprise, Noelle made it to the second round, and now they're up against Contessa. This is a tough matchup for poor Noelle.
Yeah.
Who are you going to go with in this one?
I think I'm going to have to go with Contessa. I find her character and her power fascinating, and a lot of what's going on with Noelle is not focused. I don't know how to say it exactly. For me, everything going on with all of the travelers is kind of subsumed under the umbrella of Kraus, because he's the one telling the story, which is maybe unfair to them as characters, but that's just kind of how my brain does it. So I'm going to pick Contessa.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to pick Contessa, but if this was Alexandria versus Contessa, I would have picked Alexandria. So
yeah.
I think I agree with you that in this matchup, I think the character that I'm just more interested in is Fortuna and everything that she went through. Not to say that Noelle isn't a fascinating character, but I agree with you that we kind of are more focused on Kraus, because he's a person that focuses on himself, you could say.
Yeah, right. Another way of framing how I'm going through this could be to say, which one of the characters would I be much more upset about if they were not in the story, if they had been like magically taken out of the story.
Yeah, I mean, because that is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The loser of this vote
Uh-huh.
doesn't exist anymore. They're
Yeah,
gone.
They're gone.
They're
Yep.
gone.
Earth bet round 2, Tattletale versus Lung.
Yeah, it's Tattletale. I mean,
Tattletale.
let's just move on.
Crushes it. Yeah.
Lung is great. Tattletale is better.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Bitch versus Weld. I am not voting for Rachel ever in this tournament, so this was an easy decision for me.
Yeah, it's similar to my logic as well, I think. I mean, I like Weld a lot. This is a hard matchup, honestly.
I like Weld a lot too, but
it's
not Rachel level.
Maybe more accurate to say it felt like it should have been a hard matchup, but I was just like, no, I'm just not going to vote for Weld over Rachel. Sorry.
Yeah.
Round 2 of bet, Defiant versus Accord.
Defiant. I like Accord so much better than I did the first chapter we met him in, where I called him a Bond villain that was silly. But Colin has one of the most satisfying arcs throughout the story. I find him fascinating and deep and wonderful, and I can't not vote for him in this matchup.
I think I'm going to vote for Accord here.
Hold up.
He's just such a... He's just one of my favorite of the like interestingly fucked up Parahumans characters. Colin's great. Got nothing specific against Colin, but Accord is... God, I just love his interlude so much.
I'm not mad. I'm just really disappointed.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, the final matchup in Earth Bet is Bonesaw versus Legend.
I feel like we might have another disagreement here.
What are you gonna vote for, Matt?
I think I'm gonna vote for Bonesaw here.
Yep, we're gonna have a disagreement.
In terms of
we're canceling each other out.
Interesting characters who I just can't do without, and who like almost make the story be what it is. You can't look much farther than Bonesaw.
Yeah, but a counterpoint.
Uh-huh.
He's a fast moving laser man.
Yeah. See, you like the good guys. I'm understanding one of the major differences between us. It's you're on the good guys side.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Bonesaw's, like, I loved her interlude so much. I mean, like the shockingness of the reveal of who she is and why she is the way she is really, really great. But he's a fun laser man.
Okay.
Lasers.
I respect your choices. Next, Earth Gimel, Dragon versus Foil.
Yeah, tough one. People really like Foil. I think this is going to be closer than it normal. I think this is going to be closer than just about any versus Dragon matchup this early in the tournament. But I think Dragon's going to win, and I voted for Dragon.
Yeah, I voted for Dragon too. I mean, yeah, I just Dragon's like very fascinating concept, and especially how she's executed. Glastigwenya versus Vista.
Tough one, Matt. Tough one. I voted for Vista.
Yeah, I think I voted for Vista again because I'm still mourning. So I was just like, yeah, I really like everything that's going on with Valkyrie, especially if you include Ward. Of course,
but
part of the reason I'm voting for Vista is that I'm also including Ward, which I'm not supposed to be. Let's just move past this one.
I like Valkyrie as a character. I'm very interested to see where Ward goes with her. I was never like in love with Glastigwenya.
Yeah.
I was never as interested in that character. I think, like, I'm not saying she's a bad character. It's just I was less interested in her in that early I can't talk anymore. Vista.
Agree.
All right. Regent versus Dinah.
You know who I picked.
You picked Regent. Regent's one of your favorite characters. Yes. I picked Regent as well. I like Dinah a lot, but Regent is such a satisfyingly fascinating character, and I love him.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot going on with Dinah that we're not privy to because she kept away from Taylor.
Yeah.
We did get an interlude with her, but it was when it was kind of before she came into her own. Um, and it wasn't really about her as much as it was about like what's going on with Coyle's everything.
Yeah.
So we just don't know that much about her, and I wonder if we're going to find out more about her before Ward ends, like who she is, really, rather than just mysterious predictor.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Number Man versus Garat. Sveta.
Sveta, dude. Look, here's the thing about Number Man. I never liked him that much. Like, people seem to love Number Man, and I'm just like, I just don't like that type of character very much. I'm just like, you're okay, I guess. Sveta all the way.
I think if I fall back on my who would I be much sadder if they weren't in the story rubric, then I'd go with Sveta too. Yeah, I think Number Man is interesting, but he's almost too put together and sure of himself to be like a tip top dramatic character, right? He's just like, well, of course I know the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's putting words to why I am less interested in that type of character.
Yeah.
Earth Shin, the final region, and the first matchup is Imp, our number 1 seed Imp versus Parian. What did you pick here, Matt?
Imp.
Yeah, I agree. I like Saba so much, but you can't beat Aisha. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of always going to be the rationale for me anyway. It's like, who's better than Imp?
Let's just say there's a reason why our number 1 seeds are the number 1 seeds.
Yeah, I think you're right. Next one, Victoria Dallin versus Chevalier.
It's like designed to punish me. It's designed to punish me. I love... Here's the way I was able to do this, because we make our own rules in this bracket.
Uh-huh.
And I say, I can't decide, ergo, I must do something. And my decision to do something was, let's just pretend I know nothing about Ward Victoria Dallin and just vote solely on Worm. And if I just vote solely on Worm, I have to vote for Chevalier. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, I definitely voted for Victoria. I think, honestly, I never loved Chevalier as much as you did.
Get out.
Yeah, I know. Not that I don't love his heroic scene. I don't know. I'm probably allowing some illegal. I'm probably committing a technical foul here. But there's definitely justification for a lot going on under the surface with even Glory Girl, and then she gets turned into a blob, and then things. So
yeah. 2 more technical fouls and you get thrown out of the tournament.
I know. I need to stop admitting that I'm doing it and just lie. Next one, Panacea versus Leviathan.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for any of the Endbringers in this tournament, because while I find them fascinating as creatures in this world, I will always vote for a character over them. So yeah, I voted for Amy.
Yeah, ditto. And then the final matchup, the Simurgh versus Golem. Come on.
That's Golem.
I mean, the Simurgh is actually pretty. The Simurgh is the most interesting Endbringer, because she is the one who is plotting and planning and thinking in terms of people as being things to manipulate rather than things to squish. But come on, it's Golem.
Yeah, I agree. I voted for Golem.
All right.
So it's getting hard, Matt. Next week we will be on the Sweet 16. There will only be 16 characters left, and they will be all pitted against each other. And it's going to be tough. If you look at the bracket, you can see what the matchups are going to be, or what we think they're going to be, and it's going to be tough stuff. So
yeah.
Keep voting. If you haven't voted already, go to doofmedia.com/MarchMadness and do that right now. You have until Sunday at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock Eastern time, and then the votes for the Sweet 16 will be out not much longer after that. And we will go over the results of this round next week on the show, and then pick our Sweet 16 picks as well. And don't forget, when you vote, leave comments, because we will be reading some of those comments as we go through the results of last round.
Yep. And that's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at gotwormpod. It's also where you can find my weekly live reads of all the new chapters, and any scheduling changes that we have to go through can always be found there, so make sure you follow that account.
Yeah. If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, so go do that.
Yeah, and always you can find all the other shows we do along with this one over at doofmedia.com. You can see our other weekly shows, Deep Impact, Vow to View, and the Doofcast, which this week we'll be talking about Captain Marvel. We're going to do one of those new movie reviews we haven't done in a while.
Yeah, topical movie review.
Yeah, getting those clicks.
That's right. And if you like any of our shows and you want to support them, consider donating to our Patreon account, patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses like voting in our fan art and costume contests, Q&A sessions, access to live streams of our recording sessions, and our excellent Discord chat. Special thanks this week to New Bidoofs, Event Horizon, and Lelouch Lamperouge at the $1 level. Thanks y'all. It's awesome. We really appreciate that.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you every single one of you who continues to support us each month and each week. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. And as always, make sure you head on over to Wildbow's Patreon page, patreon.com/Wildbow, and donate to him as well, because this is his world. We're just playing in it.
And if you cannot afford to donate right now, that is absolutely okay. There are tons of ways you can help us out. One of those big ways is heading on over to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a rating and a review. Each and every review we get helps other people find and listen to our podcast. This week's review comes from I Am Not Faust, who gives us 5 stars and says, a fantastic literary analysis about a superhero web serial. Scott and Matt dive into the themes, trials, and tribulations about the characters in the Parahumans universe. The source material, Worm and Ward, are of course incredible, but I don't think I would have appreciated the depth of material without We've Got Worm. While I haven't listened to We've Got Ward in a while, have to wait for a backlog to binge nonstop for weeks straight, I know when I come back, Scott and Matt will bring their insight and enthusiasm to my reading. It feels like you're sharing your favorite novel with literature professors, or at least their TAs. I'll take TAs. I'll take that. Yeah. Don't call me professor. I'll take TA.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Thank you so much, I Am Not Faust. We really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who take the time to leave us those rating and reviews.
Yes. I Am Not Faust, one of our longtime contributors to So-Called Writers, the currently on hiatus.
Can we still say that?
On hiatus for 18 months. All right, that's all for this week. Next week, we'll be back with more of Arc 12 Heavens.
Cradle time! I really want him to say, from the cradle to the grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher.
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher now?
Of course she'll have a rocket launcher for that scene.
Of course.
Him stopping.
And we won't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But it'll be there.
Yeah. She says it in an Austrian accent.
You know, in an episode of Buffy, there's a rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, it's a rocket launcher, and the judge is like, "You fool! No weapon forged from man can kill me." And she goes, "That was then. This is now." And then she fires a rocket launcher at him, and he explodes. That's amazing.
She didn't say, "I am no man."
No, that's Lord of the Rings.
Oh. Okay.
What pun, Prof? I made a pun? You didn't call her Buffy before me. There's a delay in the stream. You lose. Oh, that pun. I thought you meant earlier in the show. Sorry. God, don't.
Is this 3 or 4?
This is 4. I don't know why I was stumbling over my words so much today. It's really frustrating myself.
I thought you did great. I was just like so tired. I don't even know why.
Well, I thought you did great.
Well, thank you.
So maybe we should just listen to each other.
Okay.
I'm going to guess 0% Zendrax. Is that right, Matt?
0%. Yeah. 0.0%.
Yeah. It's easy to know when Matt has or hasn't started these things when I haven't gotten a question from Matt that's like, hey, where do I get this thing?
Yeah, right.
Hey, Matt, start Undertale.
Okay.
That's
Uh-oh.
amazing, Jay. I'm always for more Bast quotes. She's less looking at. Have you sent that doohickey to me yet?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Man, I'm liking all the different votes here. Like, it's cool that we see, like, as we were reading our decisions, I was watching what people were saying as far as who they voted for. And, like, it's cool seeing everyone kind of make their decisions differently and why they made them that way. I am enjoying this whole tournament thing. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I hope everyone else is enjoying it. I've only seen some people look like they were getting too mad in the thread where they're just like, I just don't understand why Trickster lost to Leviathan.
Yeah, well,
It's
some
like,
people seem to be like...
because people don't like him. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, so some people are like, well, obviously you're wrong. This person would win. And it's like, no, it's not who would win.
Yeah. I was like,
so
like how could Victoria beat the Sleeper? Not even Taylor wanted to touch that. I was like, no, that's not... Did you not read the part where we said, don't do it that way? No?
Or, I mean, you can do it that way if you want, but then don't act surprised if that person doesn't win.
If other people don't do it that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, anyone could, like, that's the thing. We've designed it to where you can vote. Because I think it's boring if you tell people how to make their mind up.
Yeah.
And I think it also leads to more fighting if you tell people, like, how to vote. And then if people vote a different way, then there's a lot more disagreements than if you were just like, do whatever you want. Just pick a winner.
Right.
I am fully of the opinion that the Sleeper is never going to be explained or explored in any kind of way. It's just a joke that is funny, and that's going to stay that way forever. And I would be 1,000,000% fine with that. What did you save yours as? Heavens 4.
Yes.
Tsarwat says, an occasional tiebreaker has been, which of these characters would I rather sleep with? It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the next round, that's going to be in the back of my head as I'm voting. So when I go through my picks next week, just think that somewhere at some point I thought of that and judge me accordingly.
Yeah. We can't know that Matt and Scott don't want to sleep with these characters.
Useful for the Kraus Leviathan matchup. I don't know if that would make it any easier. Leviathan or Panacea. Ugh. Well, I lost your thing. There it is. Ooh, your background noise is loud today, sir.
Oh no.
That's fine. It is easily gotten rid of. I mean, sex appeal is a legitimate thing. And then Trevor responds, yeah, that's why I voted for Echidna. Everyone's got jokes. Water after image is all you need. This is great. Why wasn't I thinking of it this way from the start? This changes everything. I want to go back and undo my votes. Undo. Unexpected number, man. Do you want to sleep with the number man, Matt?
Well, I mean,
look. Here's what I'll say. He'd probably he'd probably be really, really good at it.
Yeah, right. He would. He would be really good. Yeah. No, it's not even a discussion.
Yeah. He would be objectively amazing, to Sarwat says. So this is the plot of Shape of Water 2. Also, not kill me by accident. True. Sveta loses again on the sex front. That's sad. Poor Sveta.
Harsh.
Have I seen Perry's Numberman fan art? Maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure. Arms Master would try to be too efficient and get it over too quickly. So now we're just like talking about each of the characters in Worm and their relative skills at sex. That's just what's happening now.
That's good. I mean, we already know that Brian uses his power during sex, so.
Yeah, we do. Maybe he would have won the first round.
It's the power to not have to see anything that's happening.
Hey, don't knock it. Goldfish Bull says miniaturization is not really a specialty that helps here. Like penises.
I get it. I get it.
Do you get it?
I get it.
Yeah, he would have a lot of gadgets though. I'm being told I don't want to see this fan art, and therefore I'm going to choose to say, yes, I do not want to see it. There are some things in life that you just don't need to see. Trying to edit this podcast. Yeah, I love that. Did you see the Ashley fan art in the subreddit, Matt?
Was it just today?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
It's really good.
I will check it out as soon as I lose this game.
Be more confident.
Well, the guy just completely owned me with adepts, which normally people don't use at this level.
To you after.
I guess they're just really
Let's
good.
Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to
Why did your 1 not come through? 1. That was weird.
One.
I don't know.
Hey, everybody.
That's weird.
Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we
It.
expertly discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Ainz, and as always, this is my co-host, Zwei.
This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into these two chapters.
Well, this is the egg-centric content that I come to this.
The egg-centric content that you come to the story for, Matt. Talking about Captain Marvel.
That's right.
We're going to do one of those new movie reviews
Yeah,
we haven't done
topical
in a while.
movie review.
Yeah, getting those clicks.
That's right, and if you like any...
Boop. Just going to move this on. Yeah, getting those clicks.
That's right, and if you like any of our... it's awesome. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you every single one of you who continues to support us each month and each week. We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Thank you so much. I am not Faust. We really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who take the time to leave us those rating and reviews.
Yes. I'm not Faust, one of our long-time show.
Can we still say that?
On hiatus for 18 months. All right, that's all for this week. Next week, we'll be back with more of Arc 12 Heavens.
Cradle time. I really want him to say, from the cradle
To the grave.
to the grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher. Because
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher now?
Of course she'll have a rocket.
Of course. And we won't know where it's coming from. Wait, she's got a rocket launcher now?
Of course she'll have a rocket.
Oh, you turned off your recording as you were saying, of course she'll have a rocket launcher.
Did I?
I wanted to include that.
I
How dare
didn't
you?
think that I thought it finished recording when I clicked.
On just the through line of what's going on with Victoria.
That's so
I mean, the
disappointing.
interludes are always happens. And I'm looking
crushed.
forward to that conversation a lot.
Crushed.
Me too.
So let's do
All
it.
right, some announcements. Yeah, so Scott, what's going on with your March Madness tournament?
Yes, March's Madness is now in round 2.
Madness tournament.
Yes, March's Madness is now in round 2. We've gotten through the first 64. That Love Lost Teeth would put up with is not going to be the same stuff that this Reign would put up with.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of in the back of your mind is, yeah, you see her grab his face and then like fly down with him, right? Because someone was walking by. And she's just like throwing him around kind of like a rag doll.
Yeah. Yep. So we learned a little bit about Chug-a-Lug, the trash.
Okay. Well, that seems about right. So.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got
Nope,
Ward,
that's
a Doof
wrong.
Media podcast series where we...
That's wrong.
Hey, everybody.
No.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series. Zwei.
This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive. You didn't say German 2 the way I thought you were going to, and it threw me off.
I don't know how to say German
I
words.
thought it was Zwei.
Zwei. I literally have no idea.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't have made you say German if I knew you didn't.
Well, I saw that you put the joke in there, and I was like, should I look up how to say these things before the podcast? And then I was like, no. Then this way, people will get to correct me, which
True.
is their favorite thing to do.
They will indeed do that. Did you see Wildbow said something while you were recording? That he was agreeing. He said a couple things, but that you probably missed because you weren't reading the chapter. The Victoria's like process of going through the things she wanted to do. Like I want to beat up the place. I want to study the thing. I want to crawl up into a ball. Reflected the labels that the that her shard is listing at
I
the
did
start of
not.
the shards chapter.
I did not.
So we
not.
circled around that, but we didn't say that specifically, right? Like we said, it's very clear that like the stuff she's saying echoes what the shard is thinking about her, but we weren't as explicit with that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing he said was that Etna is very clearly like you made a good point that she's like the opposite of Victoria, but he specifically says she's kind of Glory Girlish.
Yeah. I like that.
Yep, it's cool.
In fact, I may have had that thought.
Well, why didn't you say it, man?
Well,
You would have sounded so smart.
I think I forgot that thought. I think this is what I do sometimes is I make a note and then I'm like, I obviously know what I mean by that. and then or like I include a piece of text or like a snarky ass thing to say. And I'm like, yeah, and what I mean by that is that she's basically like Victoria used to be. And then but I forget that that's what I meant because I write the notes like a week before I say it.
True. It's impossible to prove us wrong, Goldfish Bowl, because we're never wrong. So
yeah.
They can keep trying to prove us wrong, but they will never succeed because we're always right.
Yeah, you can't prove anything wrong.
Yep. How can you prove that wrong? That is objectively correct.
Always
Exactly.
kind of by their very nature more dense chapters, and I'm looking forward to that conversation a lot.
I'm now like sadly conscious of how long the opening of our section is, all because that stupid comment.
Me too.
So let's
Yeah, I
do it.
think
And it makes me mad that I am, as I don't want to be.
Madness tournament.
Yes, March's Madness
become
is now
less
in
conscious
round
ever since that
2.
first day.
We've gotten through the
First day I was
first
more conscious of it.
64,
Now I'm
and,
just like,
I'm looking
whatever.
forward to that conversation a lot. So let's
All
do
right,
it.
some announcements. Yeah, so Scott.
Boop.
Announcements. Yeah, so Scott, what's going on with your March Madness tournament?
Yes, March's Madness is now in round 2. We've gotten through the first 64 of our characters. Those were eliminated. 32 of them are dead. Rest in peace, all those sweet, sweet people. We only have 32 left. These are doing some great work, and we want you to check that out.
Yeah, you're right. Much more disciplined in terms of time
Yeah.
than those We've Got Ward guys.
How did they do that?
Yeah, we did get rained by that
You should
review.
ask them. All right,
That review used its rain emotion power on us.
let's get into 12.
442.
So full of regret.
The thing is, I'm not, though. I don't want to be. Stop it, Rain. That show would have only been 90 minutes long if we had not done the March's Madness stuff.
Yeah.
So good job, us.
Yeah.
That's what settles for short these days.
Everything goes wrong.
Thought it was
And now I know
reasonable.
I just chapter.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why, Matt, but I like the book specifically.
Yeah, I guess I thing.
Yeah, and I like the structure of this because we set this up. We're gonna be
Victoria sit at the window that's growing in him.
yeah. This is a really tense chapter overall. The chapter is dealing with tension.
Chapter 12.6.
Okay.
5611. Did I forget to... I did. I'm so mad. I forgot to put in when we started the community spotlight.
God. Not again.
I think it was here?
Yeah, I like that too. Cal Subalu says, I think that
Nope.
we can respond to their trauma.
All right, and first up we have
I hope so. So that wraps up the chapter discussion.
129.11. So yeah, we moved on to the community spotlight at 129.11. Round 1.
So is this a sub? This isn't a sub 2-hour episode though, is it?
It's over now. It'll be like 2:02.
Okay. Because that's never happened before ever.
Yeah, it has.
Defiant. I like Accord so much better than I did the first chapter.
Yeah, no, I love the schedules inside of her, and that reminds me that the shard access. What I mean.
Yeah, so someone that another story would not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the results, if you haven't checked,
So
as we do, All right.
All right, so March Madness round.
So we started talking about round 1 at 140.40. Round 2 picks at 150.
This is an easy choice for me as well. Taylor is
Okay.
7th seeded Trickster, lost out to the 10th seeded Leviathan.
Ah, man, I'm really mad. I'm really mad now. Really upset about this.
I don't think you are. And lastly,
Yeah, I mean, I like that matchup.
yeah, Dinah won again.
Dinah won again.
She's always winning.
All right, Scott. Round 2 picks. We got 16.
144.51 was round 2 picks. Okay. Well, that's the old episode.
On hiatus for 18 months. All right, that's all for this week.
Sometimes
next
I
week,
hate my
You
laugh.
still say that.
on hiatus for 18
Everyone
months.
loves your enthusiasm.
All right, that's all for this
Enthusiasm,
week.
yes.
Next
Laugh,
week, we'll be
no.
back with more of Arc 12 Heavens.
Cradle time. I really want him to say from the cradle
To the grave.
to the grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher, Arc 12 Heavens.
Cradle time. I really want him to say from the cradle
To the grave.
to the grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher.
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher from the cradle to the grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher.
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher
Of
now.
course she'll have a rocket. Of
Now.
course she'll have a rocket.
The grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher. That just as she fires the rocket launcher.
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher now.
She'll have a rocket. Of course she'll have a rocket.
I wish you hadn't pressed stop.
Of course.
Gonna take.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher.
The grave.
When Victoria says that, just as she fires the rocket launcher.
Wait, she's got a rocket launcher now.
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward.
Cool. Mixing down the session. Copying and pasting. Good episode, Matt.
Yay.
I suspect next week will be long.
Probably.
Thanks, Wildbow. He said it was a good episode. That means we didn't say anything directly wrong. No, it doesn't. No,
No, it
doesn't.
doesn't.
Oh, it is Pi Day.
Oh, cool. Jesus Christ. The fuck? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
Night to Sarwat. Have a good one. Thanks for hanging
Hey,
out.
everyone. Yep. Wow. Wow. How'd they do that? Ridiculous.
Did you lose?
Yeah, it was just amazingly well executed on their part. Like, I don't know how it seemed like it should have been an okay engagement, and it was just like a crushing one-sided engagement. I think they just had a lot more siege tanks sieged up than I realized. Huh.
Sorry, buddy. I'm gonna do that thing where I released this episode a little early because we're a day behind again.
Sounds good to me.
No sense in holding it.
Yep.
I want pie now too. What's your favorite pie, Zendrix? What's everyone's favorite pie? What's your favorite pie, Matt?
Pumpkin.
It's a good pie.
Yeah, I'm partial to it.
The only pie I really don't like is like I don't like chocolate pie
Yeah.
because it's just like pudding on crust. I don't like that. Apple pie is my favorite too. I love a good apple pie. Key lime pie is very, very good.
Yeah.
Wabo says blueberry pie in Maine. That sounds like it would be very good. I used to really like pecan pie, and I kind of hate it now. I had it at this Thanksgiving, and I was like, I don't like this anymore. I think it's too sweet.
Well, it's usually, I find that it's just usually just very badly made.
Yeah, that's probably right. It was a store-bought one, so it's probably just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also really like cherry pie, but that's one where you can be eating it and just be like, I wish they'd put some cherries in with this sugar.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of cherry, so cherry pie is not my favorite, but I have had a really good cherry pie in the past.
I'd like to learn how to make pumpkin pie because I love pumpkin pie.
Elise made me an amazing pumpkin pie last Thanksgiving. It was so good. I used to eat way too much pumpkin pie. I could down like half a pie. It was ridiculous. It's just like, oh, I'll just have a little slice. Oh, I'll just have another little slice.
Yeah. I'm at Luby's. I guess I'll get 3 kinds of pie. Not really, but at least one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walbo says pumpkin pie is probably the most consistently good one he's had. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. I think it's like I feel like even the store-bought pumpkin pies still have good parts to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's I don't even know whether it's the pumpkin that I like or if it's like the concept of like a cinnamon creamy pie.
Yeah, well, isn't like, I mean, there's like barely any pumpkin. I feel like it's mostly pumpkin spices. Right?
I think you're right. Although, one really delicious thing to make is to get like a squash, like an acorn squash with just like a ton of honey, and you like smush it up and you make like a paste of honey and squash and it tastes delicious. So like the concept of a squash-like plant is actually a delicious dessert base, but obviously a lot of what's helping there is the honey. So
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That actually sounds really good. I'm very hungry now.
yeah, me too. I want to go eat a bunch of honey.
I don't really like cake, so we didn't have like we had at our wedding we had like a cutting cake, which is just like a tiny little one that you just have to do the cake cutting ceremony. But we just had a bunch of different kind of pies from
That's fun.
this local place, and they have one called Lord of the Pies, and it's like the best freaking apple pie I've ever had. It's amazing. Now I want it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be healthy right now and not eat shit, and now all I want is pie.
My mom makes really good congeal for
What is that?
Thanksgiving. I thought you might know it because I just thought maybe it was a Texan thing, but basically it's like,
You're more Texan than I am, man.
I guess so. It's like lime jello with like walnuts and cherries and pieces of cut up pineapple like in the matrix of it. Oh, and also not sour cream.
That doesn't sound very good to me.
Yeah, there's another thing in it that sounds even worse actually, but it somehow makes it work.
Papa says that sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it's delicious. Here, let me see if I can find a picture.
Offensive to all decency, man.
I'm just trying to find a picture. Here, there. People aren't calling it congeal for some reason.
Probably because that makes it worse. It's a terrible name.
That's see at this point it's just fun to me to call it congeal because that's what my mom calls it. But I'm like, really? That's what we're calling it?
Just gonna have some good old congealed food.
They actually serve it at Luby's.
Where are you sharing this? I don't see it.
I'm not sharing it yet because
Okay.
God, fuck Pinterest, man. Fucking Pinterest.
I hate Pinterest. What? Like, I think you're losing credibility by having your source be Luby's.
Luby's is delicious.
No, objectively false.
Luby's is amazing. Look, I found. Hold on. I used to eat at Luby's all the time. Therefore, it's delicious.
I ate at Luby's once, and I said, ew. And then that was it.
All right, well, it's the end. There. Why can't you see the picture that I'm sharing?
Where are you putting it?
I'm sharing my screen on the the window capture thing.
Nope. You sure you're sharing your screen?
Sharing a specific window.
Not to me.
Huh. It's not working.
You know what's cool about this? Like, I'm pretty sure Cradle's gonna die, right? But like any good, well-developed stakes, like, it's less about him dying and more about like what's gonna happen to the people that kill him.
There, I put a picture of it in.
That looks so disgusting. Oh my god.
That was the worst picture.
Oh
That's the
my
worst picture I
God.
could find. Here, let me find an actually good picture.
That's so terrible. You put that in your mouth?
Let's see what else we can do better than that. Here. Let's see, this is America. There you go.
I mean, I guess that
Gelatin.
that definitely looks
Gelatin
better than the
salad.
first one you picked, but
Gelatin salad sounds equally bad to
it
congeal.
sounds awful. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to make everyone a big plate of congeal. I see. Mail it to your houses.
Oh yeah, that'll make it better. Mail it to people. That'll be great. Someone just blew their nose on a plate.
It's so good. Wish I had some right now to eat in front of you.
We had a thing, I guess that was kind of similar to that, called ambrosia.
It kind of sounds familiar, but I don't know what that is.
It's like cream, sugar, marshmallows, oranges, pineapples, all like you basically foam cream and sugar, and then you mix it with fruit and marshmallows.
Yeah, I mean that sounds terrible to me, but it's of course marshmallows can be useful.
I mean, it's puffy sugar.
Yeah.
What's wrong with puffy
It's
sugar?
just a mode of sugar. I guess you're just not a real Texan, Scott.
I'm proud of that.
Whispering to her for who knows how long. Like,
Final 12.4. Hey. Zentrix says, like I'm ever giving my address to someone who considers that food.
That's pretty good. Congeal will be served at all future Doof meetups.
Well, no one's coming. Thanks, Matt. We're going to go to a pineapple farm while we're in Hawaii, and I'm very excited about it. Love me some pineapple.
Yeah.
And, I mean, presumably seeing how they're farmed will be fascinating.
Presumably. I've seen pineapple farms in Hawaii.
Well, good for you.
They're a plant.
Yes. They are indeed a plant. Yeah, we'd love to do meetups in the future. I just think, like, right now we're still kind of too small.
Yeah. I mean, closest thing to a meetup is when I meet up with the people who listen at the Less Wrong Denver group.
Yeah, and I mean, when I've traveled to different cities, if we had, like, I met with Kevin in DC last year, and I was trying to meet with, I forget who it was, someone in Denver last year, and then I got, like, deathly ill.
Yeah.
Remember that, Matt? Where I almost died.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's gross. That's really gross. Lemon pie. Have I had a lemon pie in my life? I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a lemon pie. I feel like eating a lemon pie, I would be just like, why am I not eating a key lime pie right now?
Right. I would hope it tastes just like a key lime pie.
That looks so... Dude, Wildbo posted something in the We've Got Word chat that looks... You'll probably love it.
Are those hot dogs?
I think they are.
Hold on, I have more things to show you if we're doing this.
Oh no. Oh no. If you've eaten this stuff, maybe I don't want to know. I respect you too much to learn about this.
This one actually looks kind of good. No, it really doesn't. This is the Southeast Asian dessert that we used to have in Singapore. It was my dad's favorite dessert growing up when he grew up in Singapore. It's called ice kacang.
What are the seedy looking things?
I mean, I assume they're like starfish eggs or something. but I don't actually know. They're probably just like gummy because it's basically like gummy worms mashed into like shaved ice, mashed into a bunch of other random shit like apparently corn and peanuts, and then with ice cream on top of it.
Interesting. Yeah, Skins, that looks great, but it would look so much better if you just take out that lemon.
If it were just
put
green
lime
instead of
in
yellow.
there. Yeah. I feel like that would improve it by 1,000,000%. Jay says that's the best thing you've admitted to eating so far today, Matt. Is that dessert you linked?
I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. Is the thing? It's like shaved ice with various sugar things in it, and apparently corn. But corn is actually pretty sweet, so that's not.
Wow, stop! Where are you finding this? Well, you've successfully made me not hungry anymore, so well done.
Oh my god.
Why is it taking so long to process this upload? Come on, Libsyn. You know, Libsyn's whole will retweet you thing has never worked for us.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Gross. You don't need to deconstruct a hot dog. Dear planet, a hot dog is not something that needs deconstructing.
Is it just in some kind of gel?
Yeah.
And then a mustard and ketchup foam.
Glazed wiener suspension, tomato ketchup and mustard foam, cryogenic pickle relish julienne, toasted brioche tower, dwarf basil greens.
Yeah, sure, I eat that.
Glazed wiener suspension.
That's not too bad. I mean, that's one of the only things that Wildbow has shared here that I would actually eat.
You would eat a glazed wiener suspension?
Sure. I mean, that seems like something that you might see on, like, Chef's Table.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so I don't know if this is just failing or what's going on here. Let me save it as a draft before I... Oh, so that's failing too now, huh? Cool. This is great. Is Libsyn down? No. Okay. Wow, it's just really... That's awesome. Hooray!
Yay.
I gotta remake the whole episode thing.
Oh, God. I hate that.
Not the editing, but just like the whole Libsyn. Just decided not to work for no reason. I can't even spell heavens right. Halo Master Chief Collection and Reach are coming to PC. I did not see that, but I also never really was into Halo, so that doesn't mean much to me. I never had an Xbox. I never liked Halo.
I always liked Halo single player, but I never liked the multiplayer, which I guess makes me some kind of backwards creature.
I feel like it does. Let's try this again, Libsyn. I think I played Halo 1 on PC. I think I remember playing that game. but I never really played I played the multiplayer on my friend's Xbox, and in college, my roommates like got really into playing Halo like senior year for some reason. They would just play it like Halo 1 for hours. And that was 2008. So like I'm pretty sure Halo 3 was already out by then. They were just playing 1 over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, 1's pretty fun.
All right, come on, Libsyn, work for me, please. I want to go to bed. You've got to be kidding me. It's just getting hung up every time.
Well,
when I go to upload it.
I've heard there's a lot of internet problems today.
Well, Facebook went down for like...
Yeah, I didn't know that, but somebody told me that.
Okay, well, this sucks. This really sucks. I guess I'll just keep trying. Let me Google Libsyn upload problems. No, that's from 2011. That's not helpful. Did you say anything on Twitter, Libsyn? No, you didn't. This is annoying. Alright, well, I'm gonna cancel it again. And go back to content again and try again. It's not because our storage is full. Wait. What's today? Hey, it uploaded. It says it's here. Let's see if it's the full episode. It aired out, but it says it's here. No. Now it's yelling at me.
Oh no.
Never mind. Okay, so I'm gonna log out. I'm gonna log back in. All right, one more time. Actually, let's save it before. Okay. Now we save as draft. Okay, that worked fine. Now let's try to add this file again and see what happens. Yeah, I did see that wild boat. That looks like I have to download a bunch of new. Yeah, I try to do it that way, but a lot of weird. I try to do it a lot the way that it says in here, but a lot of weird stuff was happening. I haven't given up on it yet, but it's definitely annoying. It's like there's weird stuff going on with, like in full screen mode, it extends to your full screen. In windowed mode, it extends to like a tiny little square. And I guess I could do like capture that square, but when I tried it, some weird stuff was happening. So I just need to keep fiddling with it. All right, moment of truth. Processing. Ha! I win.
Yay. I guess I'm not surprised my background noise is high because my fan sounds like it's
It's going into
oscillating.
overdrive.
Well, it sounds like it's oscillating.
Uh-oh. Why?
Like it's like instead of just like a steady hum, it's like you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rhythm to it.
All right. So yeah, let me open up To the Moon and see what happens here. Actually, God, see it like. So I'm gonna make you disappear for a sec, Matt, but you can still be heard, don't you worry.
Okay.
So like yeah, see that just doesn't work at all. And if I try to do let's try to do window capture. Hey, there we go. It's very tiny, but it's there. Night Prof. But how do I make it, where's sound go? Where is sound? Hi, game. Where sound is? Hey, game. Where be sound?
All right. Is it bedtime, Scott?
It's not in full screen mode. If I go full screen, it doesn't work.
I'm gonna go, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night, sir. This is like it's in full screen right now. It's really screwy because when I move it between, it turns one monitor into something else, and like it's really weird. Whenever I switch between full screen and windowed, it like moves all stuff off of one monitor onto another automatically, like without me telling it to. It's really annoying. So I mean, I could very easily just expand it. I might have to. Let me see if I can. I would. It doesn't want to be the right. But also, like, I'm having to play it like this is a little tiny box on my screen. It's like this big box on my screen. I guess this is me full screen, so this is. I could put my face somewhere and then like something else in that other corner or something, and this would work. It's so weird though. I wish I knew why the sound wasn't working. Yeah, I could do that. That's pretty easy to do. So I could put the comments there, but dear sound, why you know sound? It's so annoying though, because every time I go into the game, it like automatically moves my Streamlabs over, so like I wouldn't be able to see the comments. I'd have to. That's so annoying. Yeah, I have no idea where the sound is though. Now, let me get out of the game. I just don't like how it like takes over my it going into full screen. Yeah. Right now, I mean, I would be fine doing that. I just need to figure out what's up with the sound. Because when I was trying to get it to work earlier, the sound was working fine. Now it's just like, nope. I hate games that don't have an options menu. Oh wait, I remember this. No, I think I disabled it now that I'm thinking. Let's pop into this again. I'm so mad that it like automatically. Night Jay. I'm about to go to bed too. I'm just playing with this before I do. I'm so mad that it automatically changes what window is in front when I go into the game. See, like I just went back. I just alt tabbed out of the game to bring the YouTube chat window to the forefront, and then how do I hate this. I hate this so much. Where's my mouse? What is happening? This is the weirdest thing. This is so there's an options menu, but it like your mouse goes away when it hovers over it, and oh, there's something. I got the and enter. There we go. Oh, it's so loud though. Oh my goodness. I am sorry, everyone. Dear Lord, that's loud. The cool thing is, Windows 10 has a mixer where you can control the sound level of individual programs. So I've turned it way down. So let's see what happens now. Oh, that's so much better. That's perfect. Okay, cool. Well, I can make this work. Will it? I can turn it down lower. It's not on the lowest setting. Okay, cool. Yeah. This'll work. I'll have to tinker with some stuff, but the important part is cool. Cancel. Okay. got that working. It's kind of a pain, but workable. All right, guys, I am gonna go to bed. Thanks for hanging out. I'll try to find time to play that sometime soon. I got a wedding this weekend to go to, so it's gonna be a busy weekend. But I'll try to find some time to dive into that, and keep reminding Matt that he needs to start playing. That he needs to start playing Undertale. You guys do that too. Just casually remind Matt, hey Matt, start Undertale. Sometimes he needs a little prodding, so just keep prodding him. But have a good rest of your night, everyone, and talk to you later.